Yeah, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the nation here tonight on the Outlaw Nation channel. It is a few minutes after 6. I apologize to everybody who has been waiting for me to come up on the air. It's been a bit of a crazy evening running back home and a lot of stuff going on here off of the channel. So I apologize to you all about being a few minutes late. But hey, we are here. We are ready to get into a lot of stuff going on in the world of entertainment. Thank you for joining me right off the bat. Hope you all are doing well on this Monday. Hope you've had a good Monday. How's your work going? How's your life going? How's your relationships going? How's your family stuff going? Are you hanging in there on a Monday? What are your thoughts? Let me know what you're thinking right now. Are we on the precipice of the end of the world, or are we just trying to survive for the next few years so we can get through all the madness and somehow come out the other side? Where are you at emotionally? Where are you at mentally? Because I am always vacillating between it's over to wait, there's hope every day now, and it's a madhouse for sure. It is as I said, it's a little bit after 6 here on the West Coast. We got so much to get into tonight on this live episode of The Nation. And as I told you guys, I am trying to consistently do live shows here on the channel Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Then that leads me into Geek Buddies and Hot Mic on the back half of the week. And maybe start to do some more stuff for the weekend. We will see as things progress and as I get more and more comfortable doing stuff here on the channel. But I do appreciate almost the 100 of you who are already here from the beginning with me, and there's so much to dive into with the DC news that dropped earlier today. There's some news, the Andor trailer dropped as well, and then we've got some stuff to dive into in terms of Karla Sofia Gascon. There's some news coming out about The Punisher. There's some, and I want to end on some fun comments or funny comments from a couple of news stories as well that have gone on here in the world of entertainment. So I'm just kind of putting my hand on everything, putting my fingers on everything, and talking about it all with you all. Please remember the Streamlabs and Superchats are open. You see the Streamlabs address right there, right above my head, there for you all to join. If you want my social media, it's right up there at the Rocha says. I should add a Blue Sky logo and make it a full thing. Got to find a Blue Sky logo as well. And of course, this is kind of the overall look we're messing around with, this cream, orange, and black kind of look, seeing what the reaction to that is. But yeah, Streamlabs Super Chats are open for you all to send in support as we go along, because I want to hear what you guys have to say about this DC stuff. I want to hear what you have to say about Andor and that trailer and the decision that they're making here about how they want to release these episodes of Andor. And also I want to talk to you all about the Karla Sofia Gascon stuff, the Oscar stuff. We're on the precipice of the Oscars stuff, and certainly I want to do a little bit of bookkeeping, or how much is it? Is it bookkeeping or a little bit of updating, I guess, on things going on with the channel this week? We will definitely be having a Jedi Way at some point this week with that new trailer dropping and other news dropping in the world of Star Wars. It may just be me and Laura, but it may be me, Laura, and Kevin. Depends on Kevin's work situation on Wednesday night when we record. Also, I will be doing the Geek Buddies. We're going to do a show on Wednesday morning. We'll probably drop them by noon, and then we'll do another show on Friday. So look for that. Hot Mic is still Thursdays. Me and Jeff Snyder. There may be updates on the Hot Mic coming soon. Just kind of put that in the back of your mind or in your back pocket. Some updates with that show as things go along. And what else is going on? Oh, yeah. And right now we are in the midst of on the Cinephiles. For some of you don't know, I host a podcast called The Cinephiles, where me and my director friend from LA, Steve Morris, we break down one classic or great movie every week. We just posted part 2 of our discussion on Mad Max Fury Road with me and Steve and our special guest, the WTF with Mark Maron producer, Brendan McDonald, who joined us to talk about Fury Road. And he was very kind to mention our podcast on his show that he does there on Mark Maron's network. I think it's Overtime or whatever they do there. And he was very kind to mention his time on our show and how much he enjoyed being on the show. And so it's a really good conversation. Part 3 will be next week. But also this week, we are doing our Oscars award show. It's our first ever award show on the Cinephiles. It'll be Saturday. We got to figure out a time, but it'll be Saturday live on our Cinephiles YouTube channel. Steve and I hosting the show, and you can join in and vote yourself by joining the Patreon. Doesn't mean you have to join at any paid tier, but if you join for free, you can get a vote. And I think there's 16 categories that you can vote in, and we will read the awards. We have some special guests who are recording the nominees, so that'll be fun for you all to enjoy. So all of it is a really cool time that we're going to try out, and it'll probably be a little clunky, but hopefully a little fun as we do our first ever Cinephiles Awards show. So that'll be a lot of fun as well. For those of you who missed out, this morning I was on Christian Harloff's show on his network, having some fun talking about everything going on in DC, and then running through a bunch of other subjects as well, and hearing from some of you in the chat, which I appreciate, always appreciate when you guys chime in and have some comments about what's going on and what we're talking about. So a lot to get into tonight, and certainly I want to get into it as we go along here and talk about all this stuff. I'll be sharing some articles, reading along with you, so we're all on the same page about stuff, and giving my 2 cents on it, and wanting to hear from you all what you think about all this stuff as well. And as I said, the Streamlabs Super Chats are the best way to make sure your comments, your questions, your thoughts get mentioned, get answered, get highlighted here on the show. We've got 140 of you already joining me live right off the bat. Thank you so much for doing that. And hopefully the numbers go up to 200 to 300 as we go along. And please remember to subscribe to the channel. That's really important as well. And for those of you who want to join my separate Patreon, it's patreon.com/John Rocha Says. We just had a fun hangout and conversation with the Patreon crew here on Sunday. About an hour and 45 minutes talking about everything going on in the world of movies, entertainment, sports, pro wrestling. We cover it all. Just have a fun hangout with them. And of course, the YouTube memberships will be something that will be opening up very soon here on the channel, and having some fun with all of that. So that's all where we're at right now with everything here on the channel. So we will see what this all brings us. We will see what the game is overall here once I put things together fully on the channel, which will be a lot of fun for you all to enjoy, I hope, for sure. All right. So anyway, yes, please hit the like button. Would appreciate you all hitting the like button. We don't get as many likes, I realize, afterwards, because I don't stress it enough. So just stressing it now right off the bat, please put in your likes. Please send in your likes. Hit that like button so we get a lot of people hanging out with us. All right. So let's get into it. Let's not waste any time. We are starting a little bit late. We usually start at 5, but we're starting at 6:05 right now. So I apologize to all of you, as I said earlier. But let's get into this stuff going on in the world of DC. So let's take it in chunks. Let's not jump into the gun too much. So let's just read the Hollywood Reporter article about what happened at DC this morning, about this event, about what they got going on here. And we'll go step by step through the article here. And here it is. So let me make it a little bit bigger. Let me zoom in on this thing and make it just a little bit bigger. There we go. All right. So where am I at here? Let's see if I've got, okay. Yeah. You know what? I think it's good. I kind of like it this way, but let's make it just a slight bit bigger. Let's see, zoom in a little more. Yeah, there we go. All right, let me take out these little pop blockers. All right, so, actually, you know what? It's kind of small, right? So, oops, let's see if we do it. No, that's kind of small too. So, oh boy, just trying to figure out the right thing here. All right, I guess we'll do it like this. Let's do it like this. This seems to be the best way to do it. You guys can read along here. It's big on the screen, and so am I. You can see my face. I'm pretty reactionary, so you guys will be fine. All right, here we go. In 1984, DC Comics. What the characters die? Okay, good. DC Studios, which Gunn runs with Peter Safran, is just over 2 years old. Its big test will be Superman. Blah, blah, blah. Gunn and Safran are not waiting to see how Superman flies. The duo are moving in with the speedy deliberation of The Flash. Superman Woman of Tomorrow, halfway through production. Lanterns, an HBO series featuring Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart, began shooting in Los Angeles last week. Clayface, a body horror thriller based on the Batman villain finally found his director, will shoot this summer for fall 2026 release. Sergeant Rock, a period war movie to be directed by Guadagnino, is actively looking for its star in an animated movie titled Dynamic Duels in pre-production. And this August, season 2 of the action comedy series The Peacemaker will debut on Max. Smaller but key steps for the identity of the division included acquiring Superman all of that. So here we go. At the meeting with journalists Friday, this past Friday, the WBD's Burbank Lot's own dynamic duo gave updates on the slate and explained the ethos and strategy driving their decision-making. Gunn and Safran took over in November of 2022 after head David Zaslav made it a priority to revitalize the storied IP factory after the merger of Warner Media and Discovery. Prior to that, DC had fractured into several fiefdoms with actors. Yes, we know all about that, being defined by From the duo's perspective, a lot of work has already been done even ahead of Superman's release. We've unified the brand. We've greenlit 5 theatrical films, made 3 live-action series, and are producing 5 animated series, which include My Adventures with Green Lantern and Starfire as 2 of the animated titles. The goal for the company is to make 2 live-action films and 1 animated movie per year, while also producing 2 live-action and 2 animated series for Max Pre. So that's 7 projects that they are working on per year. Now, producing does not mean they're putting them out. Producing means they're creating them. Making them is putting them. So, like, this is an interesting situation. 7 projects a year when we've only had 1 season of 1 project, that being Creature Commandos, come out, and we haven't seen Superman yet. Nobody's seen the movie other than the people there at Warner Brothers. So this is an interesting situation to already be starting to talk about all these things you want to do ahead of time when, to be honest with you, you haven't even dropped 1 live action thing that works fully, so that we know of. So to me, this is an interesting situation. This has shades of Power Rangers. Remember when they came out and Power Rangers was like, oh, we're going to do 6 Power Rangers movies or 7 Power Rangers movies. That's the goal here, to do all this stuff. And it's not like Marvel. Like, Marvel didn't come out and say, we're doing 5 movies. Marvel came out step by step. It's like, okay, we'll do Hulk, we'll do Iron Man. Let's see how people, or sorry, Iron Man, then Hulk. Let's see how people react. Then we do a next film, Thor, and then we do another film. And then we lead up to Avengers because we've gotten enough goodwill from the public that we can do it. Well, I think they're trying to run way too much before they crawl or learn how to walk. And to me, this is a little dangerous to be throwing so much at the wall. I mean, that being said, though, James Gunn certainly is very clear about what he wants to do, which came throughout the coverage of this situation, and also very clear about who he wants to work with, where he wants to go with the studio and with DC. And as he says here, we don't serve one kind of audience, so why make one kind of movie? That's Peter Safran. Working in a multitude of genres, it affords us the opportunity to allocate resources where they can make the biggest impact. We budget according to the demands of the story and the revenue expectations of each title. So that's a fascinating thing. So if you hear that Clayface is being made for $40 million or Sergeant Rock is being made for $40 million, that means to them this is a smaller story, and they don't expect a big revenue for that, which as opposed to Superman, which clearly they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on, and expect a bigger revenue from that. And while there will be connectivity between the movies and the shows to give that universe feel, the duo don't want each entry to feel like a chapter to a larger story. So this is where this presentation at times is a bit of satisfying all the masters at once, right? And by that I mean, well, we're not going to make it connected, but if you do see everything, then there's going to be little treats for you. But these things are going to be connected. He is leading to, and they said it in the presentation as well, they're leading to a big multi-character event, kind of like what you see on the CW with the Crisis of an Infinite Earth situation. So they do want to put stuff together. They do want to bring people together. They do want to put these characters together, but this idea that they're only doing it, they're saying like, oh, well, you don't have to have watched Superman or like, here's the quote from James Gunn. We remain steadfast that each of these projects works as a standalone project. So you can see Superman, you can watch Lanterns without having to see both of them. Although if you can, there will be special things in there for people who've seen both. So that is essentially playing both sides of the game here. Is it an interconnected universe or is it not an interconnected universe? You cannot have it both ways. Yes, you can have an anomaly film that doesn't connect up. Joker 2, those don't connect up to the main MCU. What we're going to find out here in a second, the Batman certainly seems like it doesn't connect up into the main MCU. So the idea that you don't have to watch everything, but if you do watch everything, it's kind of cool. This is a hell of a tightrope to walk, because essentially you're trying to make all of these films standalone films, but also interconnected to an overall universe. And what does that mean? Are they saying that just to ease the fans' minds right now who are exhausted by the multiverse? Like, this is the thing that you see. I have to believe that James Gunn, Peter Safran, and David Zaslav have had a conversation that they do want to lead to a Justice League, that they do want to lead to other heroes appearing in each other's films. Certainly, Superman is already teasing multiple heroes in the film just from the trailer alone, let alone what we've been told from behind-the-scenes stories or things that they've revealed, right? You've got Hawkgirl, you've got Guy Gardner in Green Lantern there. You've got Superman, you've got his robot from the Fortress of Solitude, you've got Lex. Like, there's a lot of things going on in this movie. Or the Authority is supposed to show up, Ultraman. So you've got so much happening within this movie. Are you going to tell me none of this stuff is going to bleed over, or is it only going to bleed over in like one scene? Like, I just think that they're trying to have their cake and eat it too in the presentation, because they know they're trying to get people excited about it, and they've been kind of clunky in their rollout here with all of this stuff. One thing that is the undercurrent driving the division is the writing of the scripts. We are writer-driven, declared Gunn. We are not going to greenlight or put anything in production until we are happy with the script. It is hard enough to make a good movie without a good script. It's almost impossible to make a movie with a script that you're writing on the run. Now, this is a fascinating thing to hear from James Gunn, because when you look at the stuff that they've done here and talked about, we're only going to do writing, we're only going to do this or that, that hasn't always been the case for them. So, especially right out the gate, right? There was a lot that they claimed that they were going to do and didn't do with their initial announcements. Remember the announcement, I think it was 2 years ago, in all of this. And it's kind of interesting to hear this from him saying, like, well, we're going to be much more writer driven and all of that. And that's a fascinating thing, because, I mean, the idea that he's not going to greenlight any projects without a script, they announced Superman, The Brave and the Bold, Swamp Thing, Paradise Lost, Waller, Lantern, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Booster Gold, and The Authority. Those were all announced as the first slate of DCU's first chapter, Gods and Monsters. When Gunn announced all those projects, none of them had a script. So is this something that he has discovered in the process? Like, oh, well, look, as we're putting, which of course he should totally be allowed and not be raked over the coals for this. It is an amorphous type of situation. Things change. Certainly in this presentation, he made it clear that Clayface popped up with Mike Flanagan's script, and we decided to go ahead with that one. That was not initially in our plan. But then you have stuff like Waller, which seems to have hit a wall, no pun intended. Paradise Lost is still, I think, going forward. Swamp Thing seems to be kind of now in a nebulous state. Booster Gold is not happening, and The Authority seems like it's not happening. So there is a lot of changes going on here in DC overall. So 6 out of the 9 projects that initially were announced have made very little to no progress. And that's not a good thing when you look at the state of where you're supposed to be in your universe. But again, I mean, Gunn is like, he is doing this as a newbie, right? I mean, he is a producer, he's a writer, he's certainly ran Guardians of the Galaxy to a degree. He was an EP on Endgame, I believe, because they were using the Guardians. But like running your own universe, running the entire thing, that's not an easy thing to do. So maybe in the process, he realized, hey, what a lot of us were saying, why announce all this stuff when you haven't even done Superman? Like, do Superman well, then you've got some cachet, and then you start making announcements of multiple movies or multiple TV shows. So in essence, this feels a little bit like they're doing exactly what the previous regime did, which is trying to run before they can walk. And by announcing all this stuff and wanting to do 7 projects, and again, they want to compete with Marvel. Rather than establishing themselves at their own pace and building up slowly, they want to already be hitting the ground running after Superman. And that could be dangerous. I'm not saying it will be dangerous. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying it sounds dangerous when you look at how they're presenting this. All right, so yeah, it's hard enough to make a good movie without it. With a good script, it's almost impossible to make a movie with a script that you're writing on the run. Scripts that weren't up to the duo's snuff have displaced other projects on the slate, and scripts that hadn't even been dreamt of have risen to the top of the production pile, with Sergeant Rock and Clayface being prime examples. James Gunn said we had no plans making a Clayface movie. Even after Mike Flanagan pitched what they felt was a great idea, there was still a wait-and-see attitude. He turned in a script, and it's one of the best scripts that we've read. Safran said, we've laid out internally a plan that we're happy to pivot as we discover things in the making of Superman or Supergirl or scripts being written. There's a flexibility built into it, even though we know where the larger story is headed. So again, cake and eat it too. We know where we're going, but we might take shortcuts or we might take detours depending on the situation. And while Gunn and Safran didn't elaborate, they did say they had a 6-year plan that would include an Avengers Endgame style culmination. That's essentially the Justice League. The XX acknowledged that some projects on the initial DC slate they unveiled in January of 2023 have met challenges that could bedevil Brainiac himself. We've taken a couple of cracks at it, but still haven't been able to land, as Safran says about Waller, a Peacemaker Suicide Squad spinoff that was to star Viola Davis. Waller has been a bumpy road. That is interesting to me. Why has Waller been a bumpy road? I'd like to know what the issue here is. Waller is a pretty straightforward character. I don't understand what the issue is. Did you not bring in the right writer, the right showrunner? Did you really not put a lot of attention on it? What is it that you can't break in Waller? Like, I think I would like to know, because I don't think Waller is that difficult of a story to tell. And especially if you're going to be having people jumping from movie to movie, because heroes are already out there and on the earth. I just am a little surprised that Waller has been a bumpy road, as Viola Davis is one of the best actors working today. People like this character. So are you borrowing stories for other things like Creature Commandos at the expense of a live action Waller series? I would like to know. A series on time traveling hero Booster Gold was waiting for a showrunner to make time for it, but, quote, maybe he fell out of love. Maybe he got busy, he says, but, quote, we had to pivot. So we don't know who the showrunner was for Booster Gold, but apparently they had to pivot. They fell out of love, maybe got busy. So the way they're talking about it is a bit dismissive, right? Maybe he fell out of love. Maybe he got busy, but we had to pivot. What's the truth? You didn't have a conversation with a showrunner to let you know what's actually happening here? Or is it, as Snyder has intimated on the hot mic a couple of times, that some of these showrunners, some of these directors, some of these executive producers don't necessarily want to take direction from another director like James Gunn? Maybe someone they don't see on their level or see at their level, but don't necessarily feel like that person has the right instincts for the thing they want to create. And so this is a very curious situation. And by the way, remember, this is something that Jolo Maridueña kind of revealed, that it was going to be Kumail and Johnny. So I know some of you are going to be fucking pissed at me, but be pissed at me. I don't care. But the Black-led show, bumpy road. The Booster Gold show, all of a sudden, the showrunner fell out of love with it or doesn't want to do it or got busy. I mean, that's an Kumail and Johnny Indian American-led show. Now, The Authority had a script that has a harder time coming along, notes Gunn. It hasn't been much of a priority. So I think that's the studio telling them that the authority was going to cost too much. What he wanted to do with The Authority was going to cost too much. And especially for a group that hardly anybody knows, and you're going to be introducing all these characters, and there's no cute tree, there's no cute raccoon to help you over the line in terms of presenting new characters here, or completely new characters here, even though they're going to have, I think, scenes in Superman possibly. I think this is where they were like, well, the studio doesn't want to spend the money on this kind of stuff. Now, here's another big one. Additionally, James Mangold's take on the horror here, Swamp Thing, also seems to have cooled. We talk about it occasionally, Gunn says. That's it. We talk about it occasionally. So James Mangold is off doing Star Wars. So it seems very clear that he is not leaning towards doing Swamp Thing for whatever the reasons may be, but it seems like he's not sensing it. And I wonder if this is, again, another situation where James Mangold's like, no offense, man, but I'm not taking, direction from you or orders from you or suggestions from you for what I want to do with this series. I think you should just leave me alone and let me do it, right? And what we're discovering, and certainly what gets intimated in this article, is that James wants to have his fingers in everything. So I wonder if there's an element here of Mangold going, you know what, I got Star Wars. I'm going to be focusing on that. Go through the Oscar season right now with The Complete Unknown and then off into that. So let me hang out with that first, and then we'll swing around back to Mangold, to Swamp Thing rather. And Gunn saying we talk about it occasionally. So interesting situation there. And then there's the Batman problem, or several. Despite strong efforts, any new movie featuring The Dark Knight seems years away. It's been 3 years since Matt Reeves as the Batman introduced Robert Pattinson, and a sequel seems no closer than before. Peter Safran said this at the presentation. He has yet to turn in a full script, but what we have read so far is incredibly encouraging. So we still don't have a full script. With all that talk of full script coming, full scripts in there, I'm told James Gunn is reading the script. I'm told James Gunn has the script. Peter Safran is saying there is no full completed script yet on their table. And they've read probably excerpts or scenes, but nothing else. Now, put a pin in that for now. Just put a pin in that for now, right? DC Studios is also concurrently developing The Brave and the Bold. Now, remember, the Batman 2 was supposed to start shooting soon, right? The rumors came out last week or 2 weeks ago that the Batman Part 2 was going to start shooting soon. How can you do that if you don't have a full script? Because James just said we aren't going to shoot unless we have a full script. So it's an interesting conundrum there. DC Studios is also concurrently developing The Brave and the Bold. We know about that, centered on Batman and his son Damian Wayne. But although it was announced in 2023 that Andy Muschietti would direct the feature and be a producer on it, the filmmaker behind the Flash and It movies seems to be at arm's length from the project. This is interesting. This is the section here now. We're developing The Brave and the Bold script right now, and he'll be the first one to see it, Safran said, referring to Muschietti, while also strongly implying the filmmaker is not involved in the project's development. Gunn went so far as to say he was now the driving force of the title. Everybody knows I love Batman, and it's important to me, so I'm working very closely with the writer on Brave and the Bold. The writer's name was not revealed. So let's just hit this section. What did I tell you guys months ago? Muschietti was not going to direct this movie. He was off this. They immediately had this conversation with him, probably after The Flash, from what my sources tell me, and the way The Flash kind of just ate a turd there. He was not going to do Brave and the Bold. They didn't want that stink on Brave and the Bold because there's a Batman already in the Flash movie and the legendary Michael Keaton Batman, and he still couldn't create a film that people wanted to come see. So that's what I've been told. Now, this is political stuff behind the scenes, studio political stuff, right? I mean, if he's not involved in the creation of the script, if he's not being talked to, he's not being consulted. It's like Muschietti doesn't write his stuff or hasn't written his stuff. If he's not being consulted here, that tells you that they're doing the Hollywood thing where they're going to give Andy the out. They're going to say to him, they're going to say out in public, well, Andy didn't like the script. It didn't really work for him. He didn't like where we ended up, and he felt he couldn't do it justice. So he has asked us to let him out of directing the movie. So that way, it's not like we let him go. It's that he walked away from the thing. So he gets to save a little bit of face, and they move on to a director that they actually want to do The Brave and the Bold. The fact that the article goes out of its way to say that Gunn made it feel like he was the driving force, and Gunn says, everybody knows I love Batman, and it's important to me, so I'm working very closely with the writer on Brave and the Bold, and I'm not going to tell you who the writer is. You know why? Because the writer's probably James Gunn. I just have a feeling that it's James Gunn who is now going to do Brave and the Bold after he's done Superman. Now, what Jeff and I talked about when he decided to do Superman after initially looking for other directors, this again leads to the hubris of Gunn or the fear of Gunn, or maybe Zaslav saying to him, look, I only trust you to do these tentpole ones. You can add other people to do Clayface or Supergirl or whatever, but I need you to do the tentpole ones, which is Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, possibly Flash, possibly a Green Arrow or Green Lantern or whoever else you want, or Aquaman. But certainly Batman and Superman are where he wants to be, it seems like. And so to me, the fact that they're making it clear that he is the driving force, that lets me know that Andy is not going to be directing this movie. Even more so, it just confirmed it for me, looking at what they had to say here. And not revealing the name of the writer is because he doesn't want you to know that it's him. Because if you know that it's him, then it becomes a whole thing of like, well, did he shove Muschietti out? Is this James Gunn's ego again popping up to shove out another writer? And then what does that feel like if you're a director who was thinking of maybe working with Gunn? Wow, he likes to shove people out. He likes to move people out. Maybe you're not as excited to go and work for DC. So just a possibility. Not saying that that's what happened. Just throwing it out there as a possibility. Gunn also poured cold water on the fact that Pattinson would star as Batman in Brave and the Bold and bristled at the word sharing the actor with Reeves, right? Again, we get to the ego of Gunn. He's like, I'm not sharing shit. This is my universe. Nobody shares with me. I take what I want. He said there were no serious conversations about the actor continuing his role into the broader DCU rather than staying in the separate universe of Reeves's world. So that's the situation there. The small screen also seems to have trouble in the Batcave. This is interesting. While The Penguin, a spinoff of Reeves's Batman that continues to steal award after award, after Colin Farrell won the SAG Award on Sunday for Best Actor in a Limited Series, there seems to be no plan for a follow-up. When asked by a second, about a second season, who wrote this? I bet this is like AI chat or whatever. When asked about a second season, Safran plainly said, "We don't know. There are a lot of moving pieces, probably most importantly, Colin himself, and 800 pounds of makeup." So what have we been suspecting all along? Or at least on the hot mic. And what have I been saying on the hot mic all along? And I think Jeff's kind of intimated this as well, is that Reeves is clearly becoming a juggernaut above Gunn here at DC right now. With the Batman and the Penguin, and yes, he didn't direct or showrun the Penguin, that was Laurent Lafranc, but he was the EP on it, and it was clearly the Matt Reeves universe. He is right now amongst the fans right here, whereas James Gunn in DC is down here because Superman hasn't even come out, and Creature Commandos was fine, so okay, it elevated you to here. But we haven't seen Superman yet. The trailer was great, exciting, but we'll see. So to me, this feels like a bit of a power struggle when you look at the situation. And I wonder if the fact that I know there's stuff going on behind the scenes with Matt Reeves' personal life, so I'm not touching on that, right? But looking at it business-wise, the fact that we haven't got ourselves a full script for the Batman Part 2 concerns me. The fact that they're not, it looks like from what Safran is saying, there's a lot of moving pieces, and we might not get a season 2 of The Penguin, seems to indicate that they are considering shutting down this Reeves universe completely because it threatens Gunn's autonomy of the DC universe and Safran's autonomy of the DC universe. Or they are still possibly considering some way to move Robert Pattinson in to be the Batman. So these are very curious things. So for all the talk about, we're streamlining, there's a lot of stuff that's up in the air right now that feels kind of clunky and messy and not as smooth and clean as they would like you to believe it is. So Gunn is returning to Atlanta this week to continue the post-production process on the movie for Superman. And they will be at CinemaCon, which unfortunately I will not be going to. Because I have a wedding in Europe and I can only spend so much money with the things I have to do this year. While some may wonder if the character and embodiment of so-called American values are human. Now, this is interesting. I want to take a moment here to talk about this one too. Now, while some may wonder if the character and embodiment of so-called American values or human values can sidestep cultural debates, Gunn believes he's the right Superman because he's not part of the cultural moment. Now, before I read these quotes, remember, Zaslav is a huge Trump guy, worships at the altar of Trump. Certainly the way he handled things at Warner Brothers, stepping on toes, firing people, shelving their projects like the Acme one, Coyote versus Acme, and Batgirl. This is a guy who has no problem being ruthless, right? And so he's a right-winger. He's a MAGA guy. He's a Trump guy. So these questions are, well, how can this Superman exist nowadays when there's so many cultural wars going on A, what it means to be an American, what it means to be a person who is doing good, what it means with the DEI stuff, and all of that within this context, and having a strong female character like Lois Lane. So James Gunn, I think, to me, sidesteps the issue here. He says, I think he's the right Superman because he is a character that stands for something that is solid, stands for basic human morals, basic human integrity, basic belief in protecting others and protecting the weak, being good to people, and being honest. Those are all great cookie cut answers. People are looking for heroes right now. They're looking for values of goodness, looking for people who are good and decent human beings, and Superman is that. Listen, I love all of that, but how are you going to show all of that in the movie and avoid attacks from either side? And I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to have a strong commentary about who Superman is, who Superman saves, how this all goes down. But I'm going to be super curious to see where they go with this. Because, I mean, I think from what I understand, there's been no... What I understand, I think there's just the way you look at it. There's just... here, let me look something up here. I just want to make sure. I don't want to speak out of turn because I want to make sure that I'm not wrong on this. Yeah, Nicholas Hoult, Alan Tudyk, right? Nathan Fillion, Rachel Brosnahan, Frank Grillo, David Corenswet, Skylar Gisondo. All right, so the only race change is Wendell Pierce coming in as Perry White. Perry White is usually white. So, yeah, so interesting. Very, very interesting. And of course, they've got Eddie Gathegi, who's going to be in here as Mr. Terrific, and they've got Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl. So I'm looking forward to that. But just an interesting situation there when you're talking about, okay, how are we going to show this Superman? What kind of Superman are we going to have? So we will see when that plays out. And he says, David Zaslav loves what we're doing, loves the movie, and he's really rallied the entire company behind Superman for the summer. You've seen what can happen when Warner Bros. Discovery gets together behind Barbie or Beetlejuice or Walker or Kong, and that's how it's being treated for Superman. Everything that David Zaslav has promised us 2 years ago when we got the job, it's all been a reality. So there you go. That's the article for that one. So a fascinating breakdown overall of what might be coming here. Oh, what might be coming from, how do I get up? Is this it? Yeah, what might be coming here from DC. But super interesting the way they're breaking this whole thing down, the way they're looking at it. And this idea of having to sidestep cultural debates, first of all, I don't think Superman should fall into that category. I mean, Superman always stands for what? Truth, justice, and the American way. And it's about helping people who are less fortunate. It's about saving people from the super rich, like Lex Luthor, super rich and evil, like Lex Luthor. And then as a reporter, Clark Kent is always trying to break those stories to highlight certain things, highlight certain negatives that are going on in the world. So I think they're trying to walk the line on this one in some politically fraught times. But I think if it's a good film and people love the character and love the portrayal, I don't think it's going to matter, the cultural debate. So I agree with him that people are looking for heroes and whatever. But yeah, Stormy says Superman is also an immigrant. Given how this White House treats immigrants, how can you just sidestep that? Right, exactly. And you know, that's what, for all the people who come after Zack Snyder had the fucking guts to do an illegal alien story, which is essentially what Superman was. And anybody who tells you Man of Steel was not an illegal alien story is a moron. It is absolutely a story about an immigrant, an illegal alien who comes to this country, is raised in the Midwest. His mother and father are scared of the government finding him because of what the government might do to him. And so they work really hard to not have him show his powers. They try to talk him out of helping people because it could show what he's doing. And I know some Superman purists think that was a negative, but I thought that was very realistic. It's why I love the movie. We have many people who fear the government nowadays. I mean, we have an entire MAGA party faction who's trying to destroy all the system, all the government systems, so they can put up their autocrat to be in charge of everything, which is their ultimate goal. It isn't about questioning the government. That's all nonsense. That's all just a precursor to make sure their orange daddy's in charge of things. And that's what you see happening in this situation. And that's what I appreciated about Man of Steel. It's absolutely an immigrant story, and the fear of government, which a lot of people in certain states have, certainly the Midwest have, this fear of why are they messing with my stuff? Why are they coming in here? And I don't want to lose anything to the government. It's going to test him and prod him and poke him. And so the fact that he has a much more powerful approach as the movie goes along, I love it. I love it. I don't anticipate that's what's going to happen here. if he does have the guts to do a story like that, I'll be really excited to see what the end result is, honestly. So I want to see what that's all about. Smithy, Homelander is a Superman from modern America, and he blasted the guy's Wagner off with his heat vision. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Chris says, good luck trying to deport Superman, Tom Holman. Please. Please. That's hilarious. Anyway, let's see. All right, so what else have we got here on this? I want to make sure we hit all the stuff about the DC news. All right, so this just broke 2 hours ago that Avengers Doomsday will officially commence production in April of this year. Wow. So yeah, we'll polls see here. Despite the recent but now we've ordered that it'll actually be a few more weeks before filming gets underway. It'll be in April. So does that mean it's going to get moved? What does that mean? So questions abound there for that. So let's see what else. I want to make sure I hit all the other stuff with the DC news. Yeah, the Brave and the Bold. Yeah, Blade, Superman. Executive. What do you think? Okay. So that was covered there. The Superman stuff. Yes, some ways I think I would say it's the right Superman because I don't think he's part of the cultural moment. Yeah, he's not part of the cultural moment. What do you mean? He's either of course he's part of the cultural moment. Okay, so here's another part of this. Let's bring this up because I want to make sure we get all that here. I should move myself over here. All right, let's take a look at this part of it. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. Let's see. Oh, I'm off the screen. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So let's make this bigger. All right. So it was put to Gunn that some studios, including Disney, have made a conscious decision to move away from diversity, equity, and inclusion rather than wade into a heated debate and allow Superman to get caught up in that. The filmmaker pleaded ignorance. I know what you're saying, he said. I understand your words, but I've been off working on stories for 3 years, and I just try to tell the best stories I possibly can, and that's all I care about. I mean, there's about as mealy-mouthed of an answer as you're going to get from a creator. It's ridiculous. He's been on social media constantly. He's out. There are pictures of him out with his wife and going to different places and all. And you think he's like out of touch with what's going on and he's just been off writing scripts for 3 years? That is hogwash. That is utter hogwash. He didn't want to answer the question. He's playing ball with corporate America, with Warner Brothers Discovery, and doesn't want to say anything negative. But of course he knows what's going on. Of course he knows the DEI situation is happening, but he doesn't want to chime in on it. So you can feel one way or another. I don't like it. I think it's a gutless way out, especially when his brother got lauded for standing up against the studios during the actors' strike. Now all of a sudden his brother is like really quiet about this and doesn't want to chime in on it. So it's interesting when Hollywood chooses to take a stand and when they don't. Gunn told reporters that he rarely reads the news. That is bullshit, and has recently been spending very little time on social media, both for his own mental health and because Superman and Peacemaker season 2 have been keeping him busy. He has been on social media. What is the big thing we've been complaining about is that he's on social media too much. So this idea that he says he's spending little time on social media is utter hogwash. That is the biggest thing we've been complaining about lately with James Gunn, is that he's on social media too much and that he's always answering people and going back at people, and that's not where he needs to be. He says, we're just off trying to make the best movies we can in the best way we can, no matter who is telling me who I'm supposed to put in my movie for whatever reason. I don't give a shit. Oh, now he's defiant. I was always about creating the best story possible with the best characters possible. It was that way, 5 years ago, and it's that way today. So the guy becomes defiant about, don't tell me who to put in my movie. Don't tell me about sharing Batman. But DEI, I've been writing scripts. I've been out wandering the wasteland. Like, come on, man. I mean, this is just standard stuff here that you see from people in this town, that town, unfortunately. All right, so what else have we got here? Acknowledging that he and they talked about the Zack Snyder photo. He acknowledged that he and Snyder sometimes talk about different things. We knew that people have this view that somehow we've been pitted against each other. It's odd to have someone who you're friendly with in real life be the guy that is positioned as your Lex Luthor, or I'm his Lex Luthor. Notice how he called himself Superman first. It's just such a weird dynamic that's being created between factions online. I agree with that. I think I want to see a good James Gunn Superman, and I love Man of Steel. So, to me, it's It's about delivering a good film that I thoroughly enjoy. I care less about all the other stuff. Like, will it be a good film? That's really the most important thing. Will it honor the source material, and will it take chances with its interpretation to make it new and unique? Those are the things that I focus on overall. All right, so that's the James Gunn. Let's bring up another one that they talked about here, and that's the Teen Titan one. This is very interesting as well. All right, so Teen Titans at the end of January 2023, DC Studios gathered, blah, 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 blah. Talking to the press, co-CEO Peter Safran said the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker spinoff Waller. All right, bumpy road. Authority is not the first along. It's a very big movie, blah, blah, blah. Swamp Thing has slowed down occasionally. Boostigo fell in love. Sergeant Rock. He said that Craig was only ever an idea, and they never met with him. So apparently that's what they're claiming, is that Daniel Craig never had the offer. You know that Jeff has said that Jeremy Allen White has the offer, but it might be too expensive to get him. We'll see. Teen Titans is also happening with Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow scribe Anna Nagura attached to write the screenplay. It was something that Anna was really passionate about, said James Gunn, and she turned over an amazing script for us. She's fiddling with that now, but it's definitely not a finished script. Pushed for an update on Captain America Brave New World writer Matthew Wharton's supposed Deathstroke Bane feature. Safran responded, "You say that like we've said that there is a Deathstroke Bane script." Adding that Orton is working on something for them. The executive said it's only kind of like a Deathstroke Bane story. These questions become headlines because they say, have you ever talked about this? A seemingly exasperated Gunn later pointed out, we've talked about literally every permutation on the way to come into this job in terms of how we're going to handle it, what actors we're going to continue over, what we're going to merge. We've talked about everything. Have we ever talked about Grant Gustin, star of the series Flash? Yeah. Have we ever talked about Robert Pattinson? Yeah. We've talked about all those things, but serious conversations, no. So at least we know that Anna Nagara is writing a Teen Titans movie. It's just not 100% where it needs to be for them to go forward with it. So fascinating stuff on all of this in terms of DC. For me personally, it just seems like we've got ourselves a bit of a mess. Not too much of a mess. I don't want to be too critical. It's a little bit of a mess here on DC. They're trying to put it together. But of course, I have to also look at the other side of it. It's completely understandable. Yes, did James Gunn have maybe a little bit of hubris thinking he could go in and do it and all of his stuff, you know, and I've got the right guy behind me, Zazov's behind me, Safran's behind me, I'm ready to go, and I'll show Feige what's up. He made all these mistakes. But the truth is, you talk all your shit until you start to get into the job, and then you realize how tough the job actually is, and you realize how much it takes out of you and how much effort it takes to get everything together. And attracting talent to come take a chance on your universe and make the movies that that you want them to make in the style that you want them to make to fit into the overall universe that you want to put out there. So that's going to take time. And that's going to be a situation where you're hoping you can make it all work and deliver good movies and TV shows and animated series. So to me, this is where I get concerned, because 7 projects at one time, 7 projects per year is a lot of weight to put on one person. And it seems like James is like wanting to be on top of all of it. And what's the thing that we have seen from Kevin Feige recently? It seems like he's a little burnt out from all the demands that have been put on him, right? And you even have people like Rob Liefeld whining like a baby on Twitter. You know, he needs to get out. You know, what did he say, Rob Liefeld? He said, get Feige off the mound. He's spent. I mean, Liefeld is the last person to be saying that about Kevin Feige, but, you know, it is what it is. But I think it's a situation here where I think both sides are a bit of a mess, with Marvel certainly after Brave New World. But what have we got coming up? We've got ourselves Born Again coming here. We've got the movies coming up with Thunderbolts and with Fantastic Four. So there's a chance for Marvel to turn things around. Brave New World is absolutely cratering. There's no way that thing gets to 500 million. So it's a shame to see it kind of just shattering onto the ground like a lot of people anticipated that it would. And then with DC, we're still waiting on Superman. So all these things in motion. Clayface has a director. Finally, I like that director. I enjoyed his work on TV shows, but not a very experienced director when it comes to feature films. So be curious to see how that transfers over when he does Clayface. But also the approach is curious. And I said this morning on Christian Harloff's show, is that, okay, well, what's the situation here? Like, why are you doing Superman and then 3 ancillary characters? And look, I know everybody wants to crow about Supergirl, but, you know, she's not at the level of Superman. She's not at the level of Batman or Wonder Woman. If you want to go female to female or some of these. So she's not the big name. So, all right, so she's not Clayface or Sergeant Rock, but she's not Superman. So she's somewhere in the middle. So you go Superman, then you go down to Supergirl, then you go down to Clayface, who's arguably more well-known than Sergeant Rock because he's a villain in Batman, and then Sergeant Rock. And so, to me, these are the confusing aspects of it all. Why aren't we getting tentpole pictures first to establish these characters and then bring them into the team, and then you do like one ancillary character in between the tentpole pictures? But, hey, it's James's universe, and with Peter Safran, and they get to run it as they see fit. And will they be able to get it all together? Will the quality be as strong? Because remember, Marvel was doing like one film, then another film, then another film. They weren't doing film, series, animated series, a live action series, movie. Live action series, animated series, boom, movie. There was much more going on, or much less going on. So they had time to build this thing up. So it's my concern when I look at this situation. So, let me take a drink. CB says he's trying too hard to be different, in my opinion. Maybe. We will see. Ian Yam says, Rocha, I love you, bro, but you clearly have an axe to grind with Gunn. Dude, relax. I don't know. This is childish bullshit. I get this from people all the time. I'm sorry, Yam. I just think this is ridiculous. I'm pointing out something that is legitimately happening. And because I have passion behind it, I have an axe to grind. I'm not wishing ill will on James Gunn. I don't want him to fail. I don't want him not to do well. I want him to do well. I like the Guardians of the Galaxy. Loved Creature Commandos, which we reviewed on the Geek Buddies every week it was out. I loved his other work that he's done. Oh, yeah, Peacemaker. That was an incredible series. I want him to do well. My concern is that we're seeing cracks, we're seeing strains, we're seeing pressure and breaks. And that to me concerns me because he's taken on a lot. And instead of going slowly through it, he wants to put 7 projects in motion every year. And that to me is too much. It's a lot. So it's not that I have any axe to grind. The man never did anything to me. I love his wife. I think his wife is extremely talented. I actually think everybody who bashes her for working because of her husband or says it's because of her husband are foolish because she's got the goods. So I don't have an axe to grind with James, but I'm also not going to hero worship him and swing off his D like some of you all like to do, or some people like to do. It's not my jam. I don't do that. You know, this. If you guys don't know this by now, it's called Outlaw Nation, not Kiss Ass Nation. And we're going to tell our truths and we're going to tell our points of views here honestly, but we're not trying to destroy anybody for the most part. We're trying to just make people aware of certain situations. There's no hero worshiping here on this channel other than Tom Cruise probably. But like other than that, there's not a lot. We just tell the truth. And sure, we'll give compliments when it's merited and we'll take away compliments or we'll give a little criticism when it's merited. And that's the game. Nobody has an axe to grind. Again, I don't wish him, I'm not cheering for him to fail in no way, shape, or form. I want it to be good, and my criticisms come from a place of concern that all the steps they're making here and the stumbles and the hubris, which has led to some of these stumbles, needs to be addressed so that you can deliver a better product. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case here. So that's the only place I'm coming from. So yeah, Stormy says, questioning things and having an opinion isn't having an axe to grind. I know people are too sensitive. People are too sensitive about this stuff. Like, it's okay to take down these people. It's not take down. I'm sorry. It's okay to question these people. It's okay to have a little bit of healthy skepticism about the situation. And then when the stuff comes out and you love it, then you're like, wow, they did it. I certainly was worried, but they did it. And so more power to them, and you give them their flowers and you give a great review. Look at how many of those anti-wokers had to eat crow because of all the crap they talked about X-Men 97. Then X-Men 97 comes out, absolutely smashes all their negative opinions about the show, and then they had to eat crow in the whole situation. You know what I'm saying? And so it goes in that direction when you look at this kind of stuff. I like to keep my eyes wide open. I'm not trying to host panels at a Comic-Con and be buddy with the comic book creators for my own ego. I'm not trying to host things with directors or whatever just for my own ego. I like to talk about what's happening in the world of entertainment and come from an honest point of view that is a mixture of critic and mixture of fan and human being when looking at these kinds of things. And I'm older than some of the people in this punditry space, so I don't come at it from a wide-eye hero worshiping point of view. I come from it from a man, an adult male who's been lived a few decades and has a different point of view when looking at this stuff. I'm older than James Gunn. I'm older than a lot of these people who are doing things. So it's like, this is where I look at it from a different point of view. So, all right. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Yeah, CV, did they go quiet? Yeah, they went quiet. You're right. That's right, CV. They went quiet. That's a good point. Sounds like the guy that said you have an axe to grind is self-projecting and he's well, I'm not going to say that. I mean, we all have our, he just can, I'm sure he loves James and doesn't want negative things said about James, which I can understand. Again, the hero worshiping aspect of it all is sadly a huge part of our fandom nowadays and certainly the studios want you to be like that so they can give you access to stuff. If you don't hero worship, studios get upset. So this is a thing when I look at it. Let's see. I was Freudian slip takedown. LO. I'm just saying. I hear you constantly talk about his ego and hubris. I don't get that vibe, and I'm 53. Not saying I know. Yeah, but the thing is, you just disagree, and that's okay. I'm not saying you're wrong, but you're saying I'm wrong because you're saying I have an axe to grind. I'm not saying I don't have an axe to grind. You're accusing me of that, but you have a different opinion, and I think you have a right to your opinion. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. So don't tell me I'm wrong. Let me have my opinion on this all. And you don't have to agree with my analysis, brother. Everyone has their own different point of view and analytical mind and how they know things. I know people, though, and I know people. And I've lived a life, and I can see stuff coming from a mile away most of the time before it happens. It's a cruel gift at times, but it's also saved my ass at times because I can tell by someone's inflection. I can tell by someone's presentation, by someone's sentence. I can tell these things and the syntax, what they're actually trying to do. And that's what makes me different in that approach, right? I don't live in the hero worship place. And we'll see. We'll see what happens on the end. He says, agree, 100% your opinion is valid. I didn't want to come across that way. My bad. No worries, Yum. No worries, Yum. You had a concern and you expressed it. I'm glad we can talk about it. So, Smithy says, be friends. You both wear similar hats. Correct. We have, let's put him Yum's hat. That's right. His is more V for Vendetta. Mine is more cowboy hat, but yes, absolutely. All right. So let's hit some of these super chats. Thank you everybody who's sending in stuff. Please send in Streamlabs super chats as we go along. Some support for the show would be great. I'm trying to do more of these live shows and see what's the sweet spot in terms of the time. So we'll see how it all comes together as we go about. Cowboys Fan 92 says, hi, John, doing an awards watch. I've watched The Substance yesterday and already watched Nora, now almost done with Emilia Perez. Next up is Conclave. Nice. Oh, good that you're getting through all of them before the Oscars this weekend. And by the way, speaking of the Cinephiles from earlier, we've been doing our Oscars series on the Cinephiles where Steve and I take about half an hour to talk about, explore, and give a review of one of the Best Picture nominees from this Best Picture category. And so we just put up I'm Still Here and Nickel Boys. And I think we're putting up The Substance. So it's funny you bring that up. I think we're putting up The Substance tomorrow. And then Dune Part 2 on Thursday, which is our last one. So we're almost done with all the Best Picture nominees. So if you want to hear our conversations, 30 minutes of breaking it down and talking about the acting, direction, and themes and messages of the films, you can go to the Cinephiles podcast feed. Wherever you download podcasts, you can listen to Steve and I break down these these films. So good on you, buddy. Shawnee Bear says, watching Raw, then off to bed. Have an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. shift tomorrow. I want to send love from Fall River, Massachusetts. Thank you, Shawnee. Much love to you, brother. Have a good sleep, and I hope things go well for you tomorrow, my man. And thanks so much for the contribution. Michael Baldwin says, I like the Andor trailer. I was okay with the music. So we'll talk about that in just a second, Michael. So let's put a pin in that. Julius Wise says, John, can you rank the best picture nominees 1 through 10 like you are voting? Let's see. I mean, I'm gonna maybe do this already on the Cinephiles this weekend, but let me. All right. So number 1, Dune Part 2. Number 2 is The Brutalist. Number 3 is Anora. Number 4 is A Complete Unknown. Number 5 is Conclave. Number 6 is I'm Still Here. 7 is probably Wicked. Oh, no. I mean, sorry. 7 is The Substance. 8 is Wicked. 9 is Nickel Boys. And 10 is Emilia Perez. That's probably my list right now. My top 3 are not changing. It's absolutely Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, and then what did I say? Anora. I think I said Anora is my 3rd. So those would be my top 3. But Substance probably needs to move a little bit higher. So we'll see. I'll do a final 10 though before maybe as a video on Sunday or Saturday rather. I'm Jim Flycam says Gunn can't write and direct everything. So much pressure is on Superman alone. If it bombs, do you think WB should sell DC or hold course? Also, Philly gave Trump a no. LOL. Might buy some Philadelphia Eagles gear now. Well, hold on. I am Jim Flycam. It came out earlier tonight that the Eagles had not responded at all to the White House invite, had not said no. So people are saying that was a false rumor that just got carried up by social media, and that the Eagles are actually awaiting an invite from the White House. They haven't received an invite from the White House, so they haven't been able to say yes or no. So that's a bit of a story they got pushed around. I deleted my tweets on it once I saw that from Ian Rappaport on the NFL. Yes, I think they should sell DC or hold course. That's tough to say. Depends on what Zaslav wants to do. If the film comes out and bombs, which I really doubt it will bomb, if that happens, then certainly Zaslav and Gunn and Safran are going to have conversations, because that is your tentpole picture right there. Superman is the tentpole from which everything is supposed to be connected to and streaming off of. And if your tentpole is corrupted from the beginning, then it's going to be very difficult. So I think they'll have conversations. I don't know that they would. Remember Zack Snyder, people didn't like Man of Steel. They let him do BVS, didn't quite get the job done, and then kept going to do Justice League, and then it didn't quite work out. So although his Justice League is amazing. But yeah, so I imagine they'll give Gunn 1 or 2 more movies to get it right if Superman doesn't 100% get there. Michael Baldwin says, you are taking the information you are getting and giving your analysis. Right. If you thought this was a good plan, then you'd be singing the praises. Yes, I would be 100%. I have concerns. I'm cautious. I'm trepidatious about the situation. But again, I'm in no way cheering for James Gunn to fail. I don't want him to fail. I want him to succeed. I want to make sure that it's clear to people who are watching right now overall. All right. Let's see here. Comic book. All right. So Teen Titans we talked about. All right. Should we move on to Andor? So let's move on to that. Let's bring this up here. Andor. Where are you, Andor? There it is. Okay. So Disney Plus. Oh, wait. Where has released? Okay. So let's do that's this one, isn't it? There we go. So let's make it bigger. All right. The first trailer and poster for Disney Andor Season 2 is finally here, and it's a very different kind of sneak peek for a Star Wars project. They've released it. Season 2. We'll see the characters and their relationships intensifies. The horizon of war draws near, and Cassian becomes a key player in the Rebel Alliance. Everyone will be tested, and as the stakes rise, the betrayal, sacrifices, and conflicting agendas will become profound, rife with political intrigue, danger, tension, and high stakes. The series is a prequel to Rogue One. Andor sets the clock back 5 years from the events of Rogue One to tell the story of the film's hero, Cassian, and his transformation from a disinterested, cynical nobody into a rebel hero on his way to an epic destiny. One of the great thrills of making Andor is the scale of the story and the number of characters we're able to meet. Ordinary people, Imperial overlords, passionate revolutionaries, They are real people making epic decisions, all of them staring down questions with terrifying consequences. Cashin's journey is the soul and spine of our story, but it's the choir that makes the show. I'm so excited for the audiences to see where we go in season 2. The final season will unfold over 12 episodes, broken into 4 chapters of 3 episodes each. The first chapter will premiere on April 22nd, with subsequent chapters debuting each week. That means we'll be able to breeze through the whole thing in 1 month. It's fair to say the sneak peek is unlike any other Star Wars trailer we've seen, highlighting quotes pulled from reviews for Andor Season 1. The action is accompanied by music not typically associated with this franchise. That's right. It's the Steve Earle song. It's used to great effect, this person thinks. A lot of people didn't feel that way. We catch sight of familiar characters in K2SO, voiced by Alan Tudyk, Ben Mendelsohn's villainous director Orson Krennic. As we rocket through the next 5 years of Cassian's life, it's clear the Rebel will see plenty of action during his war with the Empire. I love the swagger. I love the look of this whole situation. So yeah, to me, this trailer was pretty badass. I was surprised at the, what can I say? I was surprised at the confidence of the trailer. Like there's a confidence to this trailer that I really was blown away by. A swagger, a badassery, shall we say. Just from the beginning, you're watching him walk from behind, and the energy that comes off of him is really powerful. And then, you know what? Should I bring up the trailer? Tell you what, I'm going to bring up the trailer. I don't think I'm going to get in trouble for that because I'm not going to play any sound, and I'm not going to play more than 6 seconds of it at a time. So, but I will be looking at the trailer. So hold on. Let's see. Because I know there's stuff to pick out of the trailer. All right, let's bring it up here. Let's share the screen. Let's take a look at this trailer. We'll turn the sound down, as I said. So, yeah, so we see him walking in. So this is clearly, you know, this is the situation here. And you see it. He's carrying a bomb, possibly. Then it blows up there with the troopers. So this is guerrilla warfare. Then we see him walking again here in this way, and we're seeing an electrocuted situation. Look at that. The electrocuted thing is good. So is that a power source that is affecting a building? So again, this is guerrilla type warfare. Now he's walking down another hallway, which is leading to what? Is he going to blow? Now he's going and he shoots some guard who tries to stop him, shoots him right out of the way. So we're seeing, and I don't know if that's him or if that's, was it Bex? Is that her name? Sorry, let me bring up the characters for Andor, because sometimes I forget the names here. Because we saw her in a jacket in the trailer. Bix. Is that Bix or is that Andor? I don't know. So let's keep going. So we see him shoot somebody there, and then we see him walking again. Look at the strut that he is walking in, and he says this really poignant. And I love this. The cornfields is very similar to, in my mind, to Ezra Bridger. Remember in Rebels, Ezra is kind of in a cornfield to a degree, or a little bit of vegetation there, and you see the stormtroopers come out. It's also very similar to Rogue One, where they show up at Galen Erso's place, and the shot we have of them walking out across the farmland towards the house where Galen is at with his young daughter and his wife. And I love this. You want to fight, or do you want to win? I love the strength of that, you know. And now we see him being the pilot in here. Diego is a very strong. The face is super strong. And this is a shot we've never seen before. This is a classic shot for a fighter jet, right? So to see this from Star Wars, see this shot like this is a very unique shot that we have never seen in Star Wars quite this way. We're seeing the missile bay there. We're seeing the shots coming out and blowing up some sort of vehicle. Don't know what the vehicle is. Then we get the positive response. And then this man right here, Saw Gerrera, son. I am so excited that Saw Gerrera is back. I love Forrest Whitaker, Saw Gerrera. When he showed up in Rogue One, I was very excited. When he showed up in Andor, I was very excited. So to see him back here with season 2 lets me know that at least there's a block of episodes where Saw is going to be a big part of the show. That excites me. Okay. I love the armor too. It's so good. Then we get another quote telling us now look at this face here. Look at this face. This is not a face of someone who is necessarily happy about a situation that she's in. She's so curious, right? Like, look, she's kind of looking around there. She does not look happy. Then we get another quote of from the Atlantic. The Atlantic, boo, 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 the Atlantic. So there you go. I mean, that's it's pretty big stuff there, the Atlantic. Then we get Luthen Rael here. We get a shot of him. Is there some smoke? Is he making soup? Is he smoking? What is that? We get more quotes for the trailer telling how great it is. Now we've got Bix and Andor coming in, right? So where are they headed off to? Like I said, she's the one that had the hood. So I think she's the one that shot that dude in the opening scene in the trailer. Here's something fascinating too when you look at this. Remember, Bix is coming out of being tortured. So Bix has like this, probably this anger, this PTSD, this revenge aspect to her. So her with Cassian now, they were this, like friends, possible love interest, ball busting, that kind of thing. Now we go into season 2, and you can tell they are both mature, they're older, there's less of a fuck to give between them. And I love the strength that they're showing here and the shots of them in their faces of just casual destruction being done as they walk away, right? And then we get Orson Krennic back. Ben Mendelsohn, what a swell party this is. And the shot of the Death Star. So we know how this ends up. So this is clearly the beginnings of the construction of the Death Star. Remember, this was his idea. So how deep are we going to go into this? So then we see a dead body there possibly. And these 3 ships pulling out against this quote is so awesome. Just awesome stuff from the Rolling Stone. Yeah, from Rolling Stone quote. But like these 3, the fighters there and the carrier ship, and then you get this massive explosion. Now, what's happening here with what's happening here? What is this all about? Right? What's Cassian being confronted with here? And then the next shot is a farmer being held back. I thought this was Cassian initially, but seeing in slow motion, it's good. It's some kind of farmer being held back. And then are these guys in disguise as stormtroopers? Are these guys part of the rebellion? Like, what is their role in all of this? And there's Deidre, who I got to tell you, I just love her. Denise Goff is such a good actress. Love her in this role she plays. Even that mole of hers is doing the Lord's work. That mole of hers is doing the Lord's work to make it even more of a character that you should not take lightly. And then we get Orson with the smiles. Looks like he's talking to Mon Mothma, the critically acclaimed series, blah, blah, blah. And then this sequence here, the blowing up. This is awesome. Like all of this shooting the stormtroopers. And then from the stormtroopers, and this is a great, interesting change here. From the stormtroopers getting beat up to the dance, which this seems to be the wedding dance. And is she dancing from frustration, from anger, from shame, from pain? This is a Mon Mothma that we have not seen, this kind of emotional dancing from her. And what is she letting out in terms of stress and pain from the situation? Because she's probably marrying off her daughter into a situation she doesn't want her daughter to be in with these rich, privileged fucks there. Then we go to space, which is pretty cool. We see the hyperspace, which is pretty awesome. We see these tunnels, of course. No whales there. So no Purgles there. But then we go into another situation where we have the elite ruling class there and the robes. Look at the senator robes there. And then K2SO. We got a shit of K2SO, which is pretty cool. Then these troopers come in. I think these are the troopers that get beat up by the guys and then wear their trooper clothes as they're walking in that we saw earlier. Looks like Bix and Cassian having a reuniting moment. And then we get into this thing. Look, this looks like almost like the Aliens, the car in Aliens, the supersized military vehicle they used in Aliens is pretty badass in the way it's going and breaking through. And then we have my boy. I mean, my boy is out here, Cyril, looking as foppish as they come, with his hair longer, his robes. You can tell that he's achieved some sort of station now as we go in. Like, is this in the first 3 episodes, the second 3 episodes, third 3 episodes? I don't know where it's at, but he looks super stressed out about what's going on. We see the explosions, people running. We see these shots here. We see, let's play this a little bit. And so we see this situation. And who is she? Is she a rebel? Is she undercover? Is she working with somebody? Or is that her that was working with Luthen Rail? I can't tell if that's the same actress. Then we have the shooting of the ships here by the troopers. Is that stormtroopers or is that the rebels in disguise as stormtroopers shooting down that ship? More explosions in these rich houses, these rich areas, as we see Andor jumping over the bar. But then we get into these fights going on here. Bix gets yanked from behind. Let's play that sequence. Yeah, Bix is yanked from behind and slammed into the back. Who is that is doing that? I don't think that's Cyril. That's someone else. Then we get almost like a primal scream here of frustration. I think that's Cyril's mom, isn't it? Am I wrong on this? I feel like that's Cyril's mom, but I don't know if I'm right on that. It seems like that's Cyril's mom, but I don't know because it seems like that's the woman that was having breakfast with him. And then we see the pain and the fear, and then boom. I don't know if that's Cassian, but Saul here saying, "You're here, you're right here, and you're ready to fight," motivating a soldier here to get into the battle. So this is just incredible stuff. And then clearly Cassian undercover here, almost maybe taking Luthen's role. I think this is going to happen. I think Stellan is going to be killed, and Cassian is going to essentially slide into the role because Luthen was in essence grooming him to take this role from the first season into the second season, right? He was schooling him in a lot of moments. I need you to think like a person in charge of things. I need you to think like a warrior. So I think he's really schooling him to prepare him to take over his role and lead the revolutions and lead the attacks here. But the smirk is just fantastic. So what a great sequence of stuff here. And I'm sure some of you caught things in the background and caught locations and logos and what have you, like that spider logo. What is that all about? And if it's from season 1, forgive me for not remembering. This shot here is badass. Just, again, stuff we've never seen in Star Wars quite like this. Stormtroopers shooting a ship to pieces there in that moment. This vehicle like slamming and going underneath. What is this thing? Does it serve drinks or does it kill people? What is that, a light? What is that thing? But the different looks and different robes and what have you. So very grounded, yet very much its own thing. And I love this. Now, I just want to know who this is. If you guys have any guesses on who this might be. I don't know who this is. I'm looking at the cast list. That doesn't look like Faye. Yeah, I don't know who this is. So I'm so curious to find out who that is. So yeah, this was a great trailer. The visuals here were stunning. This shot alone, the cinematography in this shot alone is worth the price of admission, for God's sakes. Just a great amount of strength here. Yeah, the looking out on that, and then where they go, confident and sophisticated, talking about the first and the saw. Just there's so much here that is just a marvel to behold. And I think we're in some of the best hands we've ever been in when it comes to Star Wars. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Overall. Oh, yeah. Okay. It is his mom. Is that right, Planet? Yeah. I forgot. I thought that was her. Yeah. Looking clearly they've moved up in the world money-wise, right? No longer eating Cyril eating cereal in front of his mom. They've clearly moved up in the world status-wise and money-wise. And I imagine Cyril is going to play a massive part in either betraying the Empire or having Cassian get the best of him one more time. So yeah, I'm so curious to see what we're going to get once that thing finally comes out on April 22nd. And we'll see when I get a chance to get screeners. I got the offer for the Daredevil Born Again screeners today, which I need to respond to when I'm done with the show tonight. So I love this. This is great stuff. Star Wars. Great stuff here. All right. So what else? Well, let me take a drink. Here. All right, damn, I do get super thirsty. I forget how it's like when you have to run the show by yourself. Run the show with somebody else. I can take moments while they talk to take sips of my drink. So yeah. Could be a romantic relationship. Remember, the show has time jumps in years. Yeah, it does. So what do you guys think? Do you like the idea that they're doing that? We'll be done with this show in a month's time. 3 episodes a week. In essence, those are mini, well, not even mini, those are Cassian Andor films. Is this a quadrology without officially being a quadrology? Like, if they're all 3 blocks that are interconnected, 3 block episodes that are interconnected, and each 3 episode block comes out every week, then what we're talking about, in essence, are 4 Cassian Andor movies over a month's time, with just commercials or credits separating the episodes. And to me, that seems like we're talking about 3 movies, or 4 Cassian movies, rather. So could this qualify as a quadrology? I don't know, because we have films that stream on Disney Plus that are considered films. If the only difference between these 3 are like previously on or credits, I wonder if you could, put them together and create a whole film out of it. But do you guys like that we'll be done with this in a month's time? A lot of people speculating that it's this way because of the Emmys, and they want Andor to qualify for the Emmys. I'm not a big fan of that, because you should just tell your story the way you tell your story. And if you miss out on the Emmys, you miss out on the Emmys, but it's more about entertaining the audience. So 3 episodes at once to do essentially one film, I think is a dangerous thing. It doesn't allow you to, you don't go from episode to episode going, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? Because we're jumping a whole year in the next 3 episodes. So you don't necessarily carry over stuff from the previous 3 episode block into the next 3 episode block, because it's a year later. So, and I wonder if they're going to do exactly is it going to be, is every 3 episode block taking place in the spring of the corresponding year, in the fall of the corresponding year, in the summer of the corresponding year? I have questions. So we will see what it ends up being when it comes out. But I'm incredibly excited to see what more is coming for that. All right, so let's see here. What have I got? But yeah, okay, cool. Let's hit some of these Streamlabs and super chats before we jump into this Karla Sofia Gascon situation. Michael, yes, thank you, Michael. Karen, thank you, Karen, for the super sticker. Very kind of you. Wayne Edwards says, good evening, Outlaw Nation. What's up, Wayne? As much as I respect James Gunn, the more he speaks about the upcoming DC projects, it really annoys me. Give me a great Superman, and then I'm all in. Right. I mean, listen, that first announcement special was 2 years ago, and we're just now getting our Superman in the next few months. But will it be a good one? We'll see. And I agree with you. Talk all you want after Superman comes out, because then you have cachet. Unless you're doing this to hedge your bets. And a lot of the presentation today was hedging their bets. This is our plan, but we'll shift if we need to. And who knows what's going to happen. That's essentially the entire presentation in a nutshell. These are ideas. We're open to new ones, and who knows what's going to happen. That's essentially what they presented today. So I hear you, Wayne. I hear you. Cowboys Fan 92 says, hi, John. Daredevil Born Again reactions are popping up on Twitter. Finally, Jane Fonda's speech was so well done. Yes, I love Jane Fonda's speech last night. She is forever a rebel and will remain a rebel to the end. And screw anyone who has an issue with it. And yes, the Born Again reactions, because people got to go to the junkets and interview the actors. They were able to get access to the episodes. I'm applying to get the episodes tonight, and hopefully I will get them today, or tomorrow rather, or the next couple of days. We'll see how that goes about, but I can't wait to watch them, and I will be doing reactions to them, so that'll be up on the channel as well. Fredtastic 314 says, I wonder how much teeth grinding Filoni did during the production of this show. I'm all in, but I wish we had more episodes or another show following. I know. Well, I mean, they're the ones who put the kibosh on Filoni. Filoni wanted to do multiple seasons of Andor, but Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and Filoni too said, okay, that's it. We're only going to do this much. And like you said, his teeth grinding during the production of the show, probably because he doesn't like this kind of Star Wars, Filoni. And so I'm sure he wants to get, and I'm sure he may be behind, although we could say the Emmys, Filoni might be behind this as well. Get this out and get it out of here. Get it done in a month and get it out of here. Let's focus on other things. We're required to put this out, so put it out. But this is not the Star Wars that I want to put out as the person in charge of the creative direction of Star Wars, along with Kathleen Kennedy. So, maybe. I'm not saying it's happening. I'm not saying he did that. I'm just saying maybe. Just wants to get it out of there. Because I don't like the idea of the 3 Emmys or not. I don't like the idea of that. All right, so that's the situation there. Do I have any stream? Oh, okay. Thank you. Got a couple of Streamlabs that have come through. Ladies and gentlemen, Streamlabs, if you can send them, that would be great. YouTube takes 50% of our super chats. So the Streamlabs is really the way to go. And I certainly should put up my Venmo or Cash App. Maybe that's the better route. At some point, I will be putting that up on the screen. I've seen other live YouTubers put that up as graphics on their screen for people to donate, so it's not going through a third party at all. I'm Two Fly Cam says, hey, John, I'm still excited about the future of DC. Good. You should be, but also very nervous, right? I really hope Superman delivers and Supergirl is awesome, as do I. The lack of Wonder Woman and The Flash is expected because they're both so recent. I do hope we get Reeves as Batman in the DCU. Yeah, I'm Two Fly Cam. I hear you. I don't know if it's going to happen. It seems like they're saying pretty clearly they're not doing that. But as they also said in the presentation, but we are also open to shifting gears or going in a new direction if we need to. So questions abound on that level, and we'll see what that's all about. But yeah, I agree with you. Wonder Woman and Flash is too soon. But I hope they get to it soon enough, or very soon, because they need to put the 10 poles in the ground. Puerto Rican, what's up, Puerto? He says, happy Monday, John. Did you notice that Andor Season 2 went back to using the subtitle, A Star Wars Story? Ooh, I found that interesting since it hasn't been used since Solo. I did not notice that. Hold on. Does it say it at the end or at the beginning? No, not at the beginning. Let's see here. Season 2, April 22nd. Disney Plus. I did not see where they did that. Let me see. Going back. Oh, yeah. Good call, Puerto Rican. I see it. You're right. Right at the bottom. A Star Wars Story. Very small. No, and they don't even highlight it. Like Andor is the one that's really big and lit, and A Star Wars Story is way at the bottom. It just comes into frame near the end there. Okay. Yeah, interesting change. Interesting change. Great point, Puerto Rican. Thanks for pointing that out, brother. Yeah, interesting. I wonder what that means. And yeah, are they putting it in the same bin with Solo? And are they trying to retcon what they had said before? Remember, they were going to use A Star Wars Story as their exploration of alternate things in Star Wars. So I wonder if this means something about Andor. We'll see. But yeah, good catch, Puerto Rican. Thank you so much, dude. All right, let's move on to this article. I want to talk about this article. And first, of course, we should mention that Karla Sofia Gascon is coming back after putting herself and the studio probably putting her on a bit of a hiatus. It's pretty clear that they wanted her out of everything. And now it looks like they are putting her back in the mix here for the Oscars. She is set to attend this weekend's Oscars following the recent controversy surrounding her offensive resurfaced tweets. Gascon will attend the Academy Awards ceremony where she is nominated for Best Actress, and Netflix, which released Emilia Perez in November, is covering her travel costs, a source tells The Hollywood Reporter. It is customary for studios to cover their travel for their Oscar nominees. So, yes, she is the first openly trans woman to be nominated for Best Actress Oscar, has kept a low profile of late, and did not attend the Sunday SAG Awards ceremony where she was nominated for Best Actress and was part of the ensemble nominated for Best Movie Cast. She said, I'm not sure how I feel, but I'm grateful to be back. Yes, you're the victim. I'm grateful to all those people who believed in me. To Netflix, the production company, and my colleagues. I will decide. I am deciding we can close this beautiful and difficult path that began 3 years ago. Good luck. Maybe you're closing it in the fact that this is the last thing that Emilia Perez will be up for in terms of awards. But if you think the controversy is over, You're crazy. She has been the center of controversy in recent weeks after years-old tweets, which included posts with racially charged comments about Black people, immigrants, and Islam. Gascon has since apologized. Yes, let's read that apology real quick. She said, I want to acknowledge the conversation around my past social media posts. This was right at the end of January, she said this, that have caused hurt. As someone in a marginalized community, I know this suffering all too well, and I'm deeply sorry to those I've caused pain. All my life, I fought for a better world. I believe light will always triumph over darkness. So this is curious because the way the apology is laid out is it's a non-apology apology. She is saying, I'm deeply sorry to those I've caused pain. She's not saying, I'm sorry I said these words. I take them back. I shouldn't have said these things. This was completely wrong. I'm a terrible person for having said this stuff. None of that. She's saying that she's sorry that they've caused pain or caused hurt. And then, of course, draping herself in the cloak of the marginalized community robe there. She did deactivate her Twitter account. And she said, I can no longer allow this campaign of hate and misinformation to affect my family or me. So let's make this clear. She deactivated her Twitter, then 3 days later issues the apology, right? Well, why did she deactivate her Twitter? Because there's probably more on there. And she didn't want that to bring out. So this is all PR stuff. This is all PR bullshit. And this is some of the quotes she has. For those of you who may have forgotten. Let me get this straight. A guy tries to pass off a counterfeit bill after consuming methamphetamine. An idiot policeman arrives and goes too far in arresting him, killing him, ruining the lives of his family and his colleagues, and turning the guy with the bill into a martyr hero. I truly believe that very few people ever cared about George Floyd, a drug addict and a hustler, but his death has served to highlight once again that there are those who still consider Black people to be monkeys without rights and those who consider the police to be murderers, all wrong. So just what were you thinking when you tweeted that? And by the way, that's what, 2020, that tweet? Please. Later that year, she tweeted, sorry, is it just my impression, or are there more and more Muslims in Spain? Every time I go to pick up my daughter from school, there are more women in there with their hair covered and their skirts down to their heels. Maybe next year, instead of English, we'll have to teach Arabic. That is November of 2020. Under 5 years ago. She also went on to suggest that Islam goes against European values and violates human rights, and that the religion should be banned. And then when the Oscars, when Nomadland won Best Picture at the Oscars in 2021, which is 3 years ago, in essence, because we just started 2025, she said more and more of the Oscars are looking like a ceremony for independent and protest film, or maybe 4 years ago, I guess, because we're now in Oscar season. More and more of the Oscars are looking like a ceremony for independent and protest films. I didn't know if I was watching an Afro-Korean festival, a Black Lives Matter demonstration, or the 8M. Apart from that, an ugly, ugly gala. So this is a fascinating situation just from that, right? So we've got that as kind of a background for everything. I just wanted to give you all a background for all of this and where she stands and remind you of these tweets, because I want to bring up this guest column from who's this gentleman here from? Oh, where's the column? Oh God, I thought I had the column. Sorry guys, let me see if I can find this column. Ding 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 ding. Yeah, sometimes when you're by yourself, it's not always the easiest thing to find. Or did they take it? Here we go. Okay, here we go. All right, so let me bring this column up. This is from Seven Graham, who I think is a trans activist. Is a British activist and comedian. I'll probably get destroyed if he sees this because British comedians are ruthless. But he is they are an intersex activist, comedian, filmmaker, and playwright, and drug addiction counselor. All positive things. He was he identifies as a he. He was a member of the Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs, a co-founder of the Amy Winehouse Foundation. And in recognition of his intersex activism, The Independent on Sunday called him an LGBT national treasure and ranked him second in its 2015 Rainbow list of the most influential LGBT people. Well, he is an activist, clearly, and he wrote this. And I watched a couple of interviews with him, especially one with what's his face? Army Hammer talking about his points of views on this. So I want to bring up his column because I think it's important to hear what they have to say and what he has to say rather about the situation. And here's the column. It says Karla Sofia Gascon deserves better. Yes, the tweets were lamentable. 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 Let's look up what that word means. Lamentable. Deplorably bad or unsatisfactory, full of expressing sorrow or grief. So that is to be regretted or lamented, regretted, right? So that's already kind of a softer approach to these tweets. But the Emilia Perez star merits our, and more importantly, Netflix's compassion as a vulnerable woman growing into her identity at a dangerous time for the trans community. There is nothing vulnerable about her tweets. Not a fucking thing, all right? And I think this is hilarious. As a Latino looking at a Spaniard who was living in Mexico, I can tell you that there is a defiance, there is a strength here, there is a condescension and an utter contempt in those tweets. This isn't someone who's, I feel lost and confused. I don't know how I feel about this. No, she's very clear about what she tweeted. She said, comedian Hank Chen invited me to an Emilia Perez for your consideration screening in Hollywood on a rainy night. I've already seen Emilia on Netflix at home. I put on my all-weather cycle gear and rode 2.5 miles in a downpour to be Chen's +1. This screening came a few days after lead actress Karla Sofia Gascon made headlines for all the wrong reasons, and already it seemed LA industry people were wondering, is it still okay to be seen watching this movie in public? Yeah, all right. So ridiculing the industry people right off the bat. This is a very easy article to just deconstruct in the approach. As a trans and intersex creative in Hollywood, my feelings about this are complex, a mix of disgust and shock that she would say these awful things, and great disappointment that this beautiful, strong heroine, one we trans people so need right now, is dragging on feet of clay. Looking around the not capacity audience, I'm the only trans person I can see, although since January 20th, many of us are deleting our social media posts and going stealth. Sadly for Gascon and Netflix, stealth mode hadn't been activated by the time Emilia Perez's breakout rising star hit the mainstream. Gascon is the first out and proud trans person to be Oscar nominated in an acting category. Khan's success catapulted her into the limelight, where she was basking in a global LGBTQIA plus community celebration of hashtag trans joy for a few short days. Controversial take in the LA trans community, doubly so now. I love Emilia Perez, and I'm not a huge musicals guy. All right. However, I've only been a dude since 2018. Before that, I was a pretty blonde lesbian. Maybe now that I'm an intersexed queer man, musicals will become a thing. Who knows? I really wanted to see this record-breaking 13 Oscar nominations, musical crime comedy, gender blender again, as this is a movie that demands a theater viewing. I would agree with that. You should definitely see this in the theater if you're going to see this. An Academy silver screen with amazing sound and a room full of creative, talented, beautiful people. It ticks a lot of my boxes. Now, these are the same creative, talented, beautiful people that you just said were possibly afraid to be seen watching this movie. So, since my first testosterone shot on July 17 of 2018, I've become an awful cliche of masculinity. Hormones do change your sex literally, so here I am cruising the aisles from a super luxe seat, downside of posh seating, no popcorn. And never have I more needed carbs, dairy, and sugar sprinkled. It's been an awfully tough month to be a trans and or intersex person in America, watching our human rights vanishing daily with the dramatic swish of a pen, the T in LGBTQIA plus being systematically erased from all Ministry of Truth, I mean federal government websites. You're 100% right. What happened recently to Hunter Schafer, it's fucking shameful. I don't know why these people, well, I do know why, but it's disgusting and stupid and sad that people are, vilifying trans people. Before that, it was same-sex marriage. Before that, it was black people. Like, it's so disgusting the way that the right claims the left is doing culture wars when they absolutely are doing culture wars. The whole attack on DEI in essence means black or person of color. And they're intimating that DEI people have been given jobs who are less qualified than white people, when the truth is a bunch of mid-white people are no longer getting these jobs because there are things in place to let hugely, supremely qualified people of color or LGBTQIA plus people the opportunity to take these jobs and work. And this is all coming because, Muffy and Billy's mid-level, C-level student son couldn't get that high-paying job because a black person or a person of color or a woman or an LGBTQI plus person was in that position. That's all this is. That's all this is. It's nothing else but that. It's nothing else but that. And sadly, the trans community has been vilified, which is like what 1 to 3% of the nation's pop. It's not even what is the numbers on trans community? I do want to know that. Trans people percentages. I think I typed that in and see what it is. Percentage of U.S. population. About 1.6% of adults and 5% of young adults identify as transgender or binary since 2022. Imagine that. Everybody is losing their fucking minds, or not everybody. Everybody on the right is losing their fucking minds over 1.6% of adults and 5% of young adults being trans. Isn't that sad? That's super ridiculous. And as if they don't have enough to navigate in this world, now you've turned an entire political party who is looking for any excuse, any seething, blood-dripping excuse to go after trans people. You have now a system in government that wants to destroy these people, and they want to dehumanize them, and it's horrific. It's horrific. It's got nothing to do with religion. Not a fuck thing to do with religion, for God's sakes. It's all about hatred, and it's sad to see. Tonight, though, Hank Chen and I are keeping it light, gossiping about film, TV, the trauma of the LA fires. Yes, very sad, of course. Our thoughts turn to the Amelia film panel discussion afterwards. Who will it include? Or more to the point, exclude? Does Netflix's CEO, Ted Sarandos, have the balls to stand by Karla Sofia Gascon, as he did by Dave Chappelle, as a champion of free speech? Will he be here to uphold the value of this film and her performance, personal failings aside? Now, I think I see the connection he's trying to make. Chappelle went after the trans community. I hated what Chappelle said about the trans community. I hated the jokes. I hated his rationalization of the things that he did. But it was one thing, right? Hers was a machine gun, and he was telling jokes. Like, it's in the construct of a stand-up. She was going after an entire religion. She was bringing up racist stuff. I didn't even read the Hitler one where she said Hitler had his reasons to a degree. And so, this is not a comparable situation. I see what he's trying to do, but in no way is it a comparable situation to Dave Chappelle. Will he be here to uphold the value of this film and her performance, personal failings aside? Now in the theater, my nerves are jangling as Amelia's credits roll. Onto the stage walks the French director Jacques Audiard, his translator, composers Camille and Clement Ducol, American actors Zoe Saldana and Adriana Paz, the only prominent Mexican actor in a movie about a Mexican guitar boss, set mostly in Mexico City and shot in a studio near Paris. No sign of Sarandos, and Gascon was not in the theater. Not only was she not on the panel, nobody even mentioned her name. She's casting a long shadow over the Oscar hopes of everyone else nominated for the film. Netflix is doing everything it can to escape it. She's been dropped from the campaign. She's persona non grata. If you somehow missed the shooting of her star, journalist / podcaster Sarah Haji unearthed some awful tweets Gascon wrote between 2016 and 2023. That's 2 years ago. Haji argued on X, providing screenshots of the worst selection, that these messages are indefensible, blatantly Islamophobic, and racist. Gascon's pre-X tweets were written in Spanish on Twitter, and once Haji translated them from Gascon's native tongue using Google Translate, they really did not read well. Gascon was swiftly convicted by the self-appointed cancel culture cult. Ugh. See, and this is where it becomes a problem when you want to have an honest discussion about a situation, right? Gascon was swiftly convicted by the self-appointed cancel culture court. There is no self-appointed cancel culture court. There are human beings that read these tweets that want to voice their displeasure and their anger at these tweets on social media. There is a business in Netflix who sees the reaction, the natural, honest reaction from people to these tweets, and then wants to adapt to the situation by either deciding to stand by her, or what they did was essentially, well, she went on her own and then essentially decided to basically say, we're not going to pay for you to fly anywhere, which of course they rescinded now for the Oscars. But like, that was their reaction to the reaction to these tweets. The legitimate, honest reaction to the tweets, all right? There was no self-appointed cancel culture court. Fuck you for saying that. She responded quickly with a heartfelt apology. No, she didn't. It wasn't heartfelt, and it was an apology, non-apology. Then another one, making things worse, followed by an hour on Spanish language CNN, apologizing, crying, and begging for forgiveness. Now, she had gone rogue. Yes, her apology attempts were clearly not Netflix PR vetted and so felt unprofessional and yet very human. I don't think so. They felt very calculating, her apologies, to protect her brand, to protect her status, to protect her money, to protect her position. They were not apologies that were human in terms of like, oh, stumbling around. They were apologies that were very clearly calculated from a woman who has been in the public eye. Maybe not the American public eye. She has been in the Mexican public eye for quite some time, in the Spanish public eye for quite some time. So don't go, what do they call it, ethnocentric, jingoistic, or xenophobic and think only because she hasn't been in the American public eye that somehow she hasn't been in a public eye and knows how to deliver a calculated response or a calculated apology. That's nonsense, okay? Just as she did in the film, she exuded pain, soul, and vulnerability. She was evidently not prepared by Netflix for this level of exposure. Netflix, it's not their job to prepare her for this level of exposure. Now, it was their job probably to go back and vet all her tweets and see what the situation was. Certainly there's blame there to give to Netflix and the people involved there. There are zero signs she's gone through professional media training 101, and now she's all alone. This is such a false this is such a false narrative to develop over her. Again, she has been a star in Mexico in telenovelas. She has been interviewed. She has been on television. She has been in the public eye, in newspapers, in magazines. Do your research. Don't conveniently create a narrative or craft a narrative that is bullshit simply to defend what you think is defensible and fool people who maybe aren't going to do their own research and maybe swayed by an article like this that leaves out critical facts that would disprove your point of view or your narrative. She has had professional media training. Don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous, okay? That is nonsense. It may not be Netflix PR vetted professional training, but she has had professional training. She has been in the public eye. She's been a successful actress in Mexico, and I think in Spain as well. And now she is all alone. Oh. The movie's director, Jacques Audiard, is quoted in Deadline saying her comments are hateful and inexcusable, and he hasn't spoken to her and doesn't want to. Although he softened his tone slightly as he won a BAFTA for Best Director in London and blew her a kiss. He's someone who shouldn't be let off the hook either with his stupid comments about Spanish and saying how it's the language of migrant countries and up-and-coming developing countries. It was an insulting comment for him to make. Him saying he shot this thing, he should have, he didn't think to do the research and get it right. The film is offensive on so many levels once you really break it down. And so it is just a nonsense for me. And I can't discount the fact that this is a white British dude who was a woman, who was a lesbian rather, going after this or defending the situation. As a qualified therapist, I'm trained to facilitate conflict resolutions and how to separate a person from their emotionally dysregulated, triggering words and behavior. They're a saying I love. If it's hysterical, it's historical. Gascon's stream of consciousness Twitter musings about George Floyd, BLM, and even the Academy and its embrace of diversity are, to my British ears, very clunky. Clunky. And again, stream of consciousness Twitter musings. She wasn't going, and then it translated and she posted it. That isn't it. She carefully crafted these tweets and put them out for maximum effect. There are sentences. There's a constructed argument. These are not stream of consciousness tweets. That is such nonsense. And they're not clunky. They're very clear about where she's at on this stuff. But some of the messages she was judged and convicted for are definitely lost in linguistic and cultural translation. Oh, do tell us. Her, quote, case is not black and white. There are shades of gray mixed with blue, pink, and white colors of our translate. There you go. Trying to defend her in the situation. And this is what I find fascinating because, listen, equality is you are judged just as I would judge another person. So I will judge you. I don't care if you're trans or not. I am judging you by your behavior. You know, I have numerous LGBTQA plus IA plus friends. I've spoken with them about this, and they have opinions about this. And you know, we're pretty much, the people I've spoken to are pretty much on the same page. This thing is that her tweets were horrible, and she shouldn't have done what she done. And another thing he leaves out in this, talking about her going on CNN Espanol, she leaves out that she basically railroaded the interviewer, wouldn't barely let him get a word in edgewise, and wanted to get across her narrative. This is not some damsel, and it's insulting what he's doing, because he's essentially turning her into some damsel in distress in a tower that all these dragons of social media are trying to destroy her. You're removing her agency by trying to defend her as some kind of victim here. And I think that's asinine, because she is absolutely a woman of intelligence, of talent, of power. And she is not someone who is sitting there in her princess outfit screaming for someone to save her. It's nonsense. The context and flow of real-time messages is always important. Karla Sofia Gascon is a woman who is transitioning later in life after battling gender dysphoria and trauma for years, finally deciding that because she was suicidal and is a parent, she must give up her white male fame-adjacent actor status with its privilege. And at the age of 46 in 2018, she took the huge leap and transitioned to be her fully authentic self. I think that's amazing, and that should be lauded and applauded. And certainly a lot of people in the trans community, I'm sure, can connect to this and this story and feel this story. And certainly I think to a lesser degree, people who have had to jump out of bad situations, toxic situations where they don't feel like they are themselves, in order to walk into another situation freely so they can be themselves, can relate to a degree. And it's not comparable. I'm just saying you can relate to it to a degree of what she did here. And I applaud her for that. I'm sure it was incredibly difficult and scary and tough. And the fact that she was suicidal, as someone who has suffered their own mental health issues, I can certainly relate and feel compassion for. And the decisions that she made here in 2018 at 46, that's an advanced age to make a decision like this, where things are already established. So for those of you who aren't trans, like in sobriety, we track our lifeline and emotional age from the age at which we transition. Remember how much new hormones affected you as a teenager? Well, oh my God. Karla Sofia Gascon is still a young child in trans years, and she's on her own in this social media wilderness. You are now, if I read this correctly, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if I read this correctly, he is in essence saying that she is a child and that she is on her own, again, turning her into a victim. What do they call it when they make you, they want to regress you to being a child? I forget what it is, what they call that, but infantilize. He's essentially infantilizing her and claiming that she's a young child in trans years, and now she's alone in social media wilderness. So essentially turning her into a victim, which is nonsense. Gascon handles her multiple trauma layers the way most of my dolls, trans, mask, intersex, and queer friends do. She loves casting shade, laughing, and teasing. It's a good stress relief valve. Yes, surely. I've watched number of seasons of RuPaul, and certainly they cast shade, they laugh, and they tease each other and destroy each other. The Snatch Game, all of that. You know, I know it, right? But this is not that. Her tweets also tell us she has zero time for any organized religions that seek to use their hegemony and power to oppress and infringe on human rights, whether those people are women, trans, queer, or practice different faiths. Weighing everything up, I, for one, feel enormously sad for her. I feel compassion. Seeing her almost total erasure at the award show in the run-up to the Academies breaks my heart for her. As a therapist, I'm surprised she's even still alive. She must have an amazing family and deep spiritual practice with her Nichiren Buddhist Sangha community in Spain. It's funny how that deep spiritual practice didn't keep her from writing racist tweets, tweets that were Islamophobic, tweets that were in essence protecting Hitler or explaining Hitler or defending Hitler. Like, come on. I'm surprised she's even still alive. She has a very strong compass, which comes through. More than 40% of trans adults have attempted suicide, and Gascon has contemplated it before, as she revealed to the Hollywood Reporter. She's facing a campaign of hate, being dead named, and reporters are deliberately using the wrong pronouns. Hugely triggering for us, and she's receiving hundreds of death threats. Now, I don't condone any of that, right? I'm not dead naming her, which I think is horrific to do. If you know you're doing it on purpose, you're a fucking dick. I don't give you male or female, you're a fucking dick for doing that. Reporters deliberately using the wrong pronouns, that's an asshole move, whether you're female or male. I don't give a shit. That is an asshole move. You should be kicked in the nuts for that, figuratively. And she's receiving hundreds of death threats. Yeah, that's horrible. She shouldn't be getting death threats, and that shouldn't happen, unfortunately. Because she is the first trans woman who might have won an Academy Award, transphobes now feel justified to vent their transphobia and attack the Academy over the fact that she's even nominated in her Best Actress category. Right. If you're attacking her, not for the tweets, but because she's trans, you're in the wrong. And I want nothing to do with you. I'm not on your side on this. My analysis and my attack of this column is because they are removing her how can I say it? They're removing the responsibility that she needs to take for these tweets. And and he's trying to essentially reduce her down to some teen that we should all be more patient and understanding of. When this is a woman who, again, was successful in Mexico and Spain, being an actress, being in multiple telenovelas, has been in interviews, been in this process. So nonsense. But no, if you're going after the Academy or Netflix because she's a trans woman, you're an a-hole, and I want nothing to do with you. Frankly, I'm disgusted that Ted Sarandos and Netflix have just thrown her to the wolves without their PR team for support. No, she did that. They tried to walk her back. They tried to tell her to stop doing stuff. They tried to say, like, hey, let us set up stuff. Let us work it out. Let us put you on these situations. Let's take a back seat. They tried to give her advice. She didn't want to listen. And then she went on CNN Espanol and delivered that insane hour-long interview where she looked like a mad woman, unhinged mad woman, and went rogue. So don't even with that nonsense. I'm disgusted that you're disgusted at this situation because you're presenting a falsity here. They should be held accountable for their part in not properly vetting her and for not better preparing her to handle the fallout. Oh, they should have thought ahead of her situations. I would say this. They messed up not going back and looking at her tweets and deleting those tweets and telling her to delete those tweets. For that, I think I'm 100% on board with that. But for them to not properly vet her or prepare her, if she's rejecting their advice, rejecting their vetting, rejecting their preparing her, then that's not on them. That's on her. And I think the reason they shut her down and didn't want to send her to all these award shows is because she wasn't listening. And it wasn't until they removed all her support that she all of a sudden deactivated her Twitter and delivered that apology. It took those extreme measures for her to finally see what she was doing. Anyone who has seen this film knows Emilia Perez is really about redemption. Isn't it ironic that the woman who was born to play this titular part is now no longer welcome on the stage she built? Gascon's apologies were just a start in the growing and healing process. So this is interesting. It's about redemption, but remember in the movie, what does the main character do? Emilia Perez thinks that she can just make this transition and absolve herself of the fact that she disappeared so many people when she was the head of a drug cartel, and she never takes responsibility for her role when she was male in disappearing all those people. She thinks she can just save these people or give these people, these parents, closure about the missing family members, or these family members missing closure about their missing family members or friends, and that somehow absolves her for all the crimes she did when she never has to admit it. That's bullshit, and that feels very similar, actually, much more similar than you're trying to make the narrative fit. That feels much more similar to what we're seeing now. Having compassion doesn't mean I don't want Gascon to become fully accountable, educate herself about Islam and racism, and do better. I challenge the Academy to stand up for forgiveness on March 2nd. I don't think the Academy's ever heard of you, buddy. And I urge Hollywood to read Adrienne Marie Brown's book, We Will Not Cancel Us. Brown explains why we must move beyond knee-jerk canceling and find more sophisticated ways to hold those who cause harm to become accountable and heal in community. Well, it's really simple. Take responsibility, own what you did, be honest in the owning, and people do give you grace. That's the thing that's the lie nowadays. If people actually legitimately express express contrition for their actions, for their comments, for the things they said, and people believe them for the most part, and most people do when they think it's authentic, they will be forgiven. They will be given paths back to the promised land. That happens all the time, And so, to me, I think this is a little. He's presenting a narrative that I don't think is 100% accurate. Ted Sarandos and the powerful in Hollywood might be tempted to use Emilia Perez as a great excuse to back away from the trans community. God, I hope they don't. One person should not be used as an example to not cater to the trans community. And remember, there are films that have trans characters in them all through this past 2024, including another Best Picture nominee. Instead, please seek to connect with why such a tiny percent of the population is drawing such ire. We hold a mirror up to the unconscious rejection, pain, and many compromises everyone has to make to live by the rules. Never more have we needed our stories told and for you to stand in solidarity with trans and intersex people through this unimaginably tough period of being dragged backwards. We all need to sit down with a nice cup of tea and start talking. Now, let's make it clear. Seven Graham is a white person, all right? And so I don't know if they're Jewish, but none of these tweets were aimed at him. So this idea of telling everyone else is offended by it to sit down and have a nice cup of tea and start talking is nonsense, because we can't start talking until people take full accountability. That's what it's all about, And so to me, this is there's a way to look at this that isn't falling into the traps that he's trying to lay out, that everything against her is driven by transphobia, and that's not true. I think if this was a straight person, if this was Mikey Madison, who all of a sudden you found tweets like, no, I won't say Mikey because Mikey's kind of young. Maybe they'd be more forgiving for young people. But if this was Demi Moore, and and you found these tweets, people would absolutely turn on Demi 100%. And she's straight. People would turn on Demi for sure. If Ray Fiennes did these tweets, people would turn on Ray Fiennes and be disappointed. So, this is not to do, I think, for those of us who are level-headed and not transphobic, it is not about the transphobia. It's about the fact that she has never really fully apologized for the situation and has gotten to get away with it. And I think it's nonsense to me when people say that stuff. So, and turning her into some kind of victim in a tower in a castle, I think is offensive on so many levels to her. It's erasing her adulthood, and it's erasing her humanity. And I get the trans years and the emotion and all these trying to lay out for us, but I also know that she's an adult and she's a strong-willed adult, and those tweets come from a strong-willed adult. Those are not tweets from a temperamental teenager or temperamental child. They're very clear, they're very specific, they're well laid out, they are full sentences, complete sentences. Those are complicated words. Those are not, me no like Muslim. Those are very clear, the words in how they're used. They're intelligent they're intelligent constructed tweets. If the message of even though the message of the tweets are not intelligent in any way, shape, or form. So to me, this is a little bit of trying to excuse her and trying to smooth the path so that she come back to the Oscars. But if she gets booed on Sunday, I don't think that's wrong at all, because people don't like the things that she said in those tweets, and she's never fully taken account for it. And it's a frustrating thing to see. And just because she's trans doesn't mean we all need to stand up and stand next to her either, because of remove our own judgment of these tweets. There are plenty of great trans actors who don't tweet stuff like this, who also transitioned and are in their teen years or whatever of transitioning and are fine and don't tweet stuff out like this. So cut it out. Cut it out, man. All right. That's what I feel. Oh, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, exactly. Karla, well said. Stupid people come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and all genders. Hiding behind a cause is just wrong. I agree. And, I'm Latino. Seven isn't. I know my people. I know Spaniards and I know my people. And there is a strong will within us. And it doesn't mean we can't be suicidal. I was suicidal. I've been suicidal. It doesn't mean we don't have strong wills as well. It doesn't mean we're not opinionated and have steel spines. We're also sensitive people. That's why we're so passionate. And so we can be hurt. And so they're not exclusive. And I think some white people don't get that, and think it's one thing or the other. So, all right, let's see here. All right, that's what I wanted to kind of get that out there. So let me see if I've got any Streamlabs super chats, and I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think? Am I off base? Do you agree? Am I wrong? I'm open to hear what you guys have to say. I'd love to hear it. Calvin says, hate to interrupt, but do you think DEI is a catalyst to push resegregation, like forcing us to run our own businesses and work for our own people? No, I don't think. I think we're way too far down the path for that to happen. But I do think DEI is in essence, they're using DEI because they want to create a whites only club, or if you are a person of color, you better be subservient to the whites only, right? I mean, Kash Patel, who's the head of the FBI now, bends the knee to the white man in Trump, right? And every person of color who is going to be in his administration, because he hasn't put any black people of color in his administration, they're all going to be expected to bend the knee to his white ass. And that's what you've got there in that situation. So, I mean, Hegseth firing the black head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, like, that's massive. But he did it because he's black. He didn't do it because, he's unqualified. He did it because he's black and he won't bend the knee to Trump. And he supported Black Lives Matter, which, of course, when you've got Christian nationalist tattoos on your body, you're not a big fan of. So, Sahitya K says, this article is bizarre. That being said, what would you like her to do, though? Not attend when the Academy is still letting her? Yes, 100%. Let the movie speak for itself. You didn't take those tweets down. Those are recent tweets in the last 5 years, some of them, a lot of them. So, unfortunately, in life, you've got to, at some point, pay for the mistakes you've made. And it may be in the most inopportune times that you have to pay. But that makes the payment all the more of a lesson, because I missed out on being at the Oscars because I let these hateful tweets stay up. And I forgot about them. And I put them up and I forgot about them. And so to me, I think that's where I look at a situation here and I go, you know what? Own up to what you did. Take the punishment by not going to the Oscars and just sit this one out and let the other people take center stage who didn't have tweets like that, who didn't say Islamophobic, racist, hateful things like you said, who didn't condemn an entire religion. Yes, you have to pay, or you have to have consequences, rather, not pay, but consequences. And so the consequences are you stay home and you don't get to go to the Oscars. But clearly they are bringing her to the Oscars. And I bet everyone's going to be like, all of that, as if there's some kind of redemptive arc for someone who barely apologized for the whole thing. So we will see. All right, let's see. All right, so a couple of these Streamlabs that have come through. Yes, okay. Ari Papermaster says, Snyder Spacey comment on the hot mic was very weird and fucked up, and I'm really glad you stood up to it. Victims can speak about their trauma for 50 years for all I care. Who cares how many years it's been? It's their trauma. Judging that is weird. Yeah, I don't think Jeff was trying to necessarily shit on the people with trauma, but I think he was trying to say, like, why did it take so long or whatever. So, I get it. And that's why I push back on Jeff with that. And this is why I enjoy doing the show with him, because Jeff is very much unapologetically Jeff. And he creates the space to be contradicted and for us to go back and forth. And we both create that space, which I think is what makes the show work. But I hear you, and I totally respect you being offended by the things he said. I totally hear you, which is why I pushed back on it, because I thought it was wrong. What's up, Doug? Doug Developer says, Karla obviously doesn't make the cut, but I believe anything hateful and offensive anyone says before the age of 20 should be expunged from their record as long as they have truly changed. No one is perfect, and at that age, you are still mentally growing. Yeah, I agree with that. And certainly we've seen, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds who become, in their 20s, become TikTok stars. We see their tweets from back when they were teenagers, using the N-word and things of that nature. And so, yeah, I think you can create some space for understanding there. And maybe if they're actually contrite and legitimately sad and legitimately want to learn and want to be forgiven, then yeah, you create space. I mean, look at Michael Vick. There was no more hated person on earth at times than Michael Vick because of the dogfighting situation. But he went to work for the ASPCA. He got, forgiven for that. He did his time, did his jail time, and then came out. And I think that's a positive, to do that. So yeah, I totally respect that situation. Once you serve your time, you're legitimately contrite, and you keep going with that attitude and frame of mind, you should absolutely be allowed to do as you be allowed to come back if they want you back. Take it or leave it says firing someone because fan reactions / tweets is a slippery slope, though. It can be used to excuse Skydance firing Melissa Barrera, which was outrageous. No, I don't think that's the same thing. And first of all, she wasn't fired. Karla Sofia Gascon. They tried to help her navigate the situation for her old tweets. She didn't want to listen to them, got herself in trouble, and then they were like, fine, you're on your own. Like, we tried to help you, but you didn't want to help. You didn't want the help. So that's what essentially happened here. So she wasn't fired. And the situation with Melissa Barrera, she spoke out. The owner of the company did not want to hire someone or keep someone on staff who had that point of view. And so as a private company working in America, he has a right to choose who he wants to work for him or not. And if he felt those comments by Melissa were not in line with what he believes, and I think he was Jewish, as a Jewish man, then he has a right to not have Melissa Barrera come back, because that is his private company, and he has a right to let go of people he doesn't want to have representing his company because they represent a point of view that he doesn't agree with. And they're going to be outspoken about it, right? Like, it'd be different if she didn't say anything about it, and then you discover it later, right? And she wasn't open about it or loud about it. It's different. You want to take a stance, then you've got to take all that comes with it. That's the way it works. If you're going to say things, you got to take the responsibility of saying them. So I don't think it's the same thing at all, brother. And it wasn't hate speech. Yeah, exactly. Samo says, thoughts on Deadpool creator wanting Kevin fired? Yeah, it's so ridiculous. I mean, look, Rob Liefeld loves the attention, loves the spotlight, loves to get his butt kissed, loves the attention. He's always been that way. He sees Kevin weak. Now he finds his puffing out his chest to come after Kevin because Kevin right now is a little on the ropes because of how Marvel is being perceived. But if Daredevil Born Again comes out and knocks it out of the park, Thunderbolts comes out and knocks it out of the park, Fantastic Four comes out and knocks it out, and Ironheart comes out and knocks it out of the park, then Rob Liefeld is going to have to shut the fuck up or apologize and say, oh, you know what? He still has the juice, but I guarantee you he won't. I guarantee you he won't. Rob has very strong opinions. I've worked with him. I've dealt with him. I respect him as a person and the creator of Deadpool. Someone who is, obviously was created Deadpool, but also like someone who has had a strong footprint in comics and whose stuff I grew up reading. I totally respect that. But by the same token, him calling for someone else to be fired, I think is, especially for someone who like him, who has at times been on the chopping block, I think is a bit off base, in my personal opinion. Yeah. But again, this is the Outlaw Nation. We're going to speak our truth here. I'm not trying to lobby to host a panel with Rob on it. You're going to get truth from me. I'm not trying to make money off doing that crap. I tell the truth. I tell my truth rather. And I come from my place of not being influenced or by my own selfish desires or egos to do anything here. I just tell the truth. And if I'm going to come after somebody, I'm coming after them because I think I should. And I believe I'm right. And I don't want to, and I don't care if it affects them. It's my job. All right. So what can I say? Is there anything more I want to talk about here? I think that's, well, I got one more stream that came through. Raya Thank you, John, for using your platform to keep this conversation going. It's not easy, but your fearlessness is so inspiring. All the best. Yeah. Thank you, Raya. Appreciate that. Some people hate on me for doing this, man. If you watched the Christian Harloff show this morning, some of those haters were out in droves, calling me despicable and calling me abhorrent and all these things, simply because I stand up and push back at some of this stuff. And won't be quiet and won't be silenced by their limited minds. It's just not how I'm built. And I will call them out for having limited minds because I don't care, I tell my truth. So just want to make it clear. Let's see. What else are we going to talk about? I thought there was a couple more things that happened. Do you guys want, well, we should probably shut it down, right? We're like 10 minutes away from 2.5 hours. We should probably shut it down. So let's shut it down. Let's shut it down. I was going to talk about a couple more things, but I didn't think those things would go as long as they did, but they did. And I never know how long this stuff's going to go. But thank you all so much for hanging out with me tonight. Really appreciate you all madly. This is the Outlaw Nation channel. So for those of you who don't know, we have our own podcast feed. Everything we talk about on the show, every show we do, aside from the Geek Buddies and the Hot Mic, are on the podcast feed. The Jedi Way, whenever we do Spill the Tequila, these shows, they are on the podcast feed. So if you want to listen to it and you don't want to see my pretty face, you can subscribe to the Outlaw Nation podcast feed there to listen to all that stuff. And I'd love it if you did, because I want to get the numbers up on that, because I might start doing solo shows on the days that I don't do shows on camera. I might do solo shows on the podcast feed to encourage more and more people to subscribe to the podcast feed and sign up. So we can get more sponsors. So I appreciate it. You guys are the best. Thanks so much. Please remember to subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that bell button. Leave your comments down below as well about everything we talked about. Open to hearing from all of you all. Love the way you guys break down and analyze this stuff. What stood out to you about the DC announcements, the Andor stuff, Karla Sofia Gascon stuff. Let me know what you thought about all that. What should happen with all this stuff, and any of the questions these wonderful people asked me on Streamlabs Superchats. What are your thoughts and what are your answers to their questions? I want to hear all of it. So thank you so much. I'll be back probably tomorrow with another live stream. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of news that drops tomorrow as well. Geek Buddies will be here on Wednesday and on Friday. Jedi Way on Thursday. Jedi Way will, probably Thursday morning. And then that night or that afternoon, we'll do the Hot Mic. So look for that as well from me. Plus any trailer reactions or reviews of stuff I go see. Like, I got to watch The Gorge, for God's sakes. So I'll probably watch that tomorrow. But look for all that here on the Outlaw Nation. But remember what I say to end every one of these episodes. For those of you who are struggling, for those of you who are in dark places, for those of you who are not in the best frame of mind, I hope I entertained you to some degree tonight, made you laugh, made you think, maybe even got you upset so that you feel something. I want to let you know, man, I've been there in those dark places, been there in those tough places, and always remember to use your tools to focus on the things that make you happy, put you in a better frame of mind. And certainly I've been there where it feels like you're moving concrete just to do something to make yourself and get in a better place. I have been there. I've been in those places. And I just want to let you know, you can climb out of those places because you have before. And remember that. The light is always just around the corner. And sometimes it can be real dark and you're fumbling around in the dark with your hand on the wall. And you never know what hallway you turn down where you finally see the light, climb out of it. And you know why I know that? Because you have climbed out of it before. You have seen the light before. And so it can't happen again. So just keep the faith, stay strong. And remember, whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next hour, next week, next month, next day, whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next hour, next day, next week, next month, next year, I want you to do that. It's really important. It's really important. The world's a tough place, man, especially right now. For some of us on a certain side of how we feel about how we should treat people, right now is a very, very tough time. It feels hopeless. You feel overwhelmed. But you got to have faith, man. You got to believe in what's in yourselves. You got to believe in the goodness that is coming, and stay strong. It's important to stay strong through this madness that's going on in our world, and keep the faith and keep the faith with each other. That's another important thing, is be there for each other. You got a friend who's struggling, you're struggling, call them up, have a conversation. What are you feeling? Here's what I'm feeling. What do you need? All right, here's what I need. You never know what can happen when you find a camaraderie or connection with somebody and they can speak into your pain, speak into your sadness, speak into your darkness, and you can speak into theirs. Because the thing about us who are in this club, and it's a club we didn't want to join, but we're all in, the mental health club, is we have a shorthand. We know the language. We know the feelings. We know the emotions. We know the stages. We know the energy. And we know how to talk about this. Hopefully you know how to talk about this. And so you can be a resource for someone else in the dark times who needs it, because you know the language. You know what you would want to hear. And so if you're open to receive their opinions, their points of views, and what they need, and they're open to return it to you, you never know how that can be an incredible resource to help you climb out of the darkness and into the light. So just throwing it out there as food for thought as I'm talking here, as we wrap up the Outlaw Nation. So you guys are so amazing. Yeah, you mean the world to me. I can't believe you guys take the time to hang out with me. It means so much. And hopefully these continue to grow as I do them more consistently. More and more people start to see these as things to go to. We start to come up with fun segments, more interesting segments, and talk about stuff. I think that would be a lot. I didn't even get to the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively updates, which is already madhouse upon madhouse. So, but we'll come up with new stuff. I want to come up with segments, like funny moments, foolish fool of the week, things of that nature. So we'll see. But anyway, I love you. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Thank you for being part of the Outlaw Nation. And I'll talk to you next time with another brand new live stream, probably tomorrow night here on the Outlaw Nation. Peace until then. I mean that. Peace.